Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order at this time. If you will, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I will call on Councilman David Barber to please lead us in the invocation.
Dear Lord, we're so thankful for this opportunity we have that we can gather together as a town of Smithfield, and we can honor some people that, Lord, that are doing some great things in our county and our town. We thank you, Lord, for them and for their service. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunities that they provide us as citizens of this town. We pray, Lord, for the business that we're about to go into, that you would help us to be attentive and to be able to understand and comprehend and ask the right questions, and Lord, then make the right decisions that will affect our town in the most positive way. Again, we thank you for all you do for us. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, gentlemen, we have the agenda in front of us. We do have a couple of known changes to the agenda, one being the addition of a proclamation declaring November the 1st, 2023 as National Family Literacy Day in the town of Smithfield, and then also consent agenda item number 3, Special Event Day of Awesomeness. And then also we may need to add a business item to discuss paving. Is that true?
Add business item number 4 for the resurfacing project for 21-22 to the agenda.
Okay. All right. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda at this time?
Mr. Mayor, last meeting, if some of you all don't recall, I did ask for Skip Green to be added to the agenda tonight to give a detailed report on the community block development grant, and I don't see it up here anywhere.
Okay. So are you wanting to add that to the agenda?
Is Skip Green here? Is he here?
I don't know if he's here or not. Mr. Manager said he is not here.
Any reason why I won't add it to the agenda?
Are you asking me or the mayor?
Whoever.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Any reason why it was not added to the agenda when it was stated last meeting to add it to tonight's agenda?
Yeah, I can respond to that. Apparently, I misunderstood our meeting that you and I had in my office. You came in, we talked about this issue. My recollection was that you said it didn't need to be added to the agenda, so we didn't add it.
We're not doing the closed door politics. That's not why I came into your office. That's not why I came in there. I came in there to talk about another concern that I had.
So Councilman Lee.
No. I came in there and talked about another concern.
Do you want to add it to the agenda
Is Skip
or not?
Green here? What we're going to add it for me, he's not here.
So the manager
I
may
came
be
in there
able
and talked to him about an issue, Mr. Mayor, but the concern I had, that got out. So, Mr. Manager and our new police chief went and talked to a former employee who I had a concern with, who I took out a former complaint on, and he called me yesterday.
Marlon, I ask you that I'm going
Don't ask me that again.
Order in right now.
I want a business item number 4 or 5. We need some discussion with the town manager and the police chief.
What is the item you would like to add?
They can tell you what it was about.
So I need to understand
We're
what
not gonna
item
do
you
this.
would.
We're not going to do this.
So I'd like to understand what item you would like added to the agenda.
We're not going to do this. Are you going to play me like that? Election time or not?
So do you want an item added to the agenda?
Is Skip Green here? You keep asking me the same question. Skip Green is not here, and which he should have been notified.
All right, so
That's not Skip Green. Mike Scott is not Skip Green. I wanted Skip here. Yeah, we talked, but Skip should have been here to report on this issue.
So did
This
you-
is a
did you-
concerning
did-
issue.
Did you tell the manager that you didn't need to add it to the agenda? Did you say that?
It was, no, I didn't tell him that.
Okay.
He answered his questions. I needed Skip Green to here to present to the public, not the backdoor discussion, just like was discussed that night, but that got open in the public. So, go ahead, carry on.
Any other items you'd like to add to the agenda this time? All right. I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
opposed? No. Carry out the vote.
We had a unanimous. All right. Now we'll move on now to our first presentation, administering the oath of office for our new fire chief, Jeremy Daughtry. Jeremy, come forward, sir.
I would like to know how you planned that, Chief Dawson.
Never fails. Never fails. How are you, sir? Who do you have with you this evening?
This is my beautiful daughter.
Awesome. Outstanding. If you guys want to come over here. All right, sir, are you ready? All right. I, Jeremy Daughtry,
I, Jeremy Daughtry,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain,
maintain,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of said state,
and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
as fire chief.
as fire chief.
So help me God.
So help me.
Congratulations, sir. You've got some more business to do?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much. And to your family before they leave, just want to say, oh, there they are. Just want to say thank you because it's just not his time. It's your time as well. And I know that if he hasn't, then how long you been in the business now?
Total 25.
25 years, so I'm sure that means a lot of time away from family events and personal events. So I did want to say thank you to both of you for the sacrifice that you make as well. All right, we'll move on to our next presentation, another proclamation recognizing October as Fire Prevention Month in the town of Smithfield. If you will, please bear with me as I read this proclamation. Whereas fire is a serious and constant threat to our community, causing significant loss of life, property, and natural resources. And whereas the month of October is recognized as Fire Prevention Month, providing an opportunity to educate the public about fire safety and prevention. And whereas the Smithfield Fire Department, in partnership with local organizations, is committed to promoting fire safety and reducing the risk of fires in our community. And whereas the theme for Fire Prevention Month 2023 is Prevent Cooking Fires, Watch What You Heat. And whereas cooking fires are the leading cause of home fires and home fire injuries, with unattended cooking being the primary contributing factor. And whereas the Smithfield Fire Department will be hosting various events and activities throughout the month to raise awareness about fire safety and prevention. Now, therefore, I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Fire Prevention Month in Smithfield, North Carolina. And I urge all citizens to practice fire safety by installing and maintaining smoke alarms, creating a home fire escape plan, and regularly practicing fire drills with their families. Exercise caution while cooking by staying in the kitchen while cooking, using a timer to remind themselves of cooking times, and keeping flammable items away from the stove. Participate in Fire Prevention Month activities organized by the Smithfield Fire Department, such as open houses, educational programs, and fire safety tours to learn more about fire safety and prevention. By working together, we can make our community a safer place to live. So, Chief, I just want to thank you and your department and your entire staff for everything that you do, not only going and helping with emergencies, but also for the prevention of those emergencies. That means if we can do our part to help prevent, that means the less amount of time that you and your team are put into harm's way. So thank you for everything that you're doing. All right, it's still working. All right, it's Ted and team here. Come on up, Ted. Now the unsung heroes, right? So the ones that keep the power on. So thank you for you and your staff who so often do have to go out into harm's way, whether it be ice storm or after hurricanes and so forth, and high wind conditions. So I want to thank you and your team for everything that you do for keeping the power on in the town of Smithfield. So, sir, I do have a proclamation recognizing Public Power Week, October the 1st through the 7th in the town of Smithfield. Again, if you will, please bear with me as I read this proclamation. Whereas public power is a crucial component in cities and towns across North Carolina, contributing to the overall health of communities by providing reliable electricity, excellent local service, and prompt restoration. And whereas North Carolina's more than 70 public power cities and towns are among more than 2,000 across the country. And whereas many of North Carolina's public power cities and towns have been electric providers for more than 100 years, assisting their communities through boom times, as well as pandemics and economic downturns. And whereas public power meets the electric needs of 49 million Americans who make up almost 15% of electricity consumers. And whereas North Carolina's public power utilities are valuable community assets that contribute to the well-being of the community and provide economic development opportunities. And whereas North Carolina's public power utilities are dependable institutions that provide excellent service and a commitment to community. And whereas the town of Smithfield recognizes Public Power Week and commends the public power cities and towns across our state for their outstanding contributions to our communities. Now therefore, I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, do hereby proclaim October the 1st through the 7th as Public Power Week in the town of Smithfield and commend its observation to all citizens. Ted, thanks again for you and for everything that your staff does. Thank you very much.
Whatever you want to do.
All right. Now move on to our next presentation, discussion regarding the maintenance and possession of chickens within the town limits. Stephen, I'll turn that over to you, sir.
Thank you. At the request of the council, I was asked to review chicken ordinances in nearby municipalities, which I've done. So the Smithfield Code of Ordinances, Part 1, Section 4-62 prohibits the keeping of chickens within the town limits. Keeping of chickens has become a trend nationwide. Many towns have adopted ordinances allowing chickens, including Durham, High Point, Clayton, Garner, and Raleigh. These are the towns that I reviewed. So in reviewing all these ordinances, they pretty much have some of the standard features in them, which is prohibition of keeping of roosters because of the noise they make. Most limit the number of chickens, some from 5 to 10, depending on the municipality. Chickens to be confined in a coop or a run area at all times, which was on the previous slide. That was a coop with a small run area in that picture. Covered coop location requirements, so setbacks, where on the property it could be, front yard, backyard, and setbacks. Maintenance or waste requirements, making sure, chicken waste is in a sealed area so it's not accumulating and becoming an odor. No commercial use of chickens or eggs, so you're not to be selling retail out of your home. And many of them regulate slaughter, either prohibiting it or regulating it in some manner. Some optional regulations that seem to vary code by code included permit requirements, zoning permit required or not, property type limitations, typically single-family homes, lot size requirements, maybe a 8,000 square foot minimum lot size or something like that. Most require the chickens be kept in the backyard. Chicken coop and run size and material requirements. And then they do vary in how to handle the waste. Most do have a waste requirement, but how they handle it is different. And then the setback requirements really differ from town to town. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions for
I did
Stephen?
include all the ordinances in your packet if you wanted to see specifically how they differed and what they said.
I don't think we're asking for any action or anything on this tonight. I think this is sort of a follow-up to, I think we had some citizens come several months ago requesting to be able, especially when the prices of eggs, if I remember correctly, it was during that time period when the prices of eggs had gone up. So they had come at that time requesting it. So I think this was just kind of for our information. Is that correct? And then, of course, you have copies of the ordinance examples. So if there are any questions at this time for Stephen.
So currently, we don't have this in place. Is that what we don't have it in place?
Right, chickens
So-
are prohibited.
So should residents have, I mean, are there areas being policed that do have chickens? I mean, on East Lee Street, behind the place where you pay the car insurance or whatever, there's 4 or 5 of them running in the front yard, almost in the street yesterday. So has it been policed anyway, or, I mean?
I've checked with the police department, and they've not received any complaints, so probably it just falls under the radar.
Okay.
The question is, since this was announced that we would be presented, and I didn't know if there's anybody here, because, we did have somebody bring something to us and said, I didn't know if anybody was here who was involved in that. I would like to hear really more from them, being that they were the experts. They promoted it. And I know, again, Stephen doesn't really know that much. He's just researching it. He's not an expert at it. You don't do chickens. So I'd like to have a little more information too as we go forward on looking at it as a possibility from those people who are doing it. Is that possible?
Yeah, we could hold a
The
little.
person who sent us a letter in town that wanted to do it, I don't have that information with me. You know what I'm talking about? If we could kind of get it with him, see if he would like to come and present, I think it would be worthwhile to gather the information, because that's somebody who's doing it and can tell us more firsthand how it's being done, or should be done, right? And other than just ordinances and things like that. Actuality is a lot of times different than rules and regulations.
Is that something you wish to have done at a council meeting, or is this something that staff can do on the side and just have a meeting?
I'd like
with-
for them to come so we can ask questions. I think it would be important for us we make those types, because it impacts the town. Some people are going to be against it, and some people are going to be in favor of it, and so we want to make sure we make those right decisions, and I think the only way to make the right decisions is having that information. First-hand information is always better than second-hand information.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I guess we could research the meeting minutes, right, Madam Clerk, regarding that, and probably.
And
reach
again,
out
just a
to some
presentation. I
folks.
wouldn't need to necessarily
Sure.
have a vote on it at that time for policy, but I just gather more information. More still information gathering, I think, would be beneficial.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Not a policy to, not put it on a business item to approve it. I think we need more information.
Right, okay. All right, anything? Yes.
Stephen, did you speak to any other, like Clayton, for example, about this? Have they had any, I'd be curious to see, since I know they recently adopted it, have they had complaints?
I did not call other towns to see if they've had complaints.
That'd be one curiosity.
I used to work in a town that had a chicken ordinance, and we never got complaints.
Yeah.
Unless they had roosters.
Yeah, no roosters, but
I
With-
wouldn't anticipate there being a lot of issues.
somebody with small children, and I was over at my sister, she lives in western part of the state, and they've got a chicken coop similar to one shown here. They live outside of town, but I'm telling you, the kids just thoroughly enjoy the activity of how many eggs do we have today? My son, when we on the way up there, how many chickens do they have now? I'm in favor of a well-regulated ordinance around this, but definitely no roosters, very limited number inside. But, it's.
If you'd like, I could poll some of the towns that
But
I
I'd like to see some
researched.
negative. If there's negative, I'd like to
Yeah,
know.
I'll poll them and just see if they've had any issues since they adopted their ordinances.
Any other questions on this matter? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for putting that together. I appreciate it. All right. Now move on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is not a quasi judicial hearing, so no need for anyone to be sworn in. Our first public hearing is RZ-23-02, Johnson's Tire and Automotive. The applicant is requesting to rezone .53 acre portion of a 1.53 acre tract of land from the R20A Residential Agriculture Zoning District to the B3 Highway Entrance Business Zoning District. The property considered for rezoning is located on the south side of North Carolina Highway 210, approximately 100 feet west of its intersection with Skyline Drive. The property is further identified as a portion of Johnston County Tax ID 15076-014. This time, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Stephen, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. So the property shown here in yellow, bound in yellow, I should say, is the property we're talking about. You can see immediately to the right of it on the screen is a red B3 property, so that is Johnson Tire and Auto. The yellow parcel has been added to their property through a purchase with the adjacent property about 2 years ago, and they started operating a parking lot on that, expansion for parking on that property. And since then, we've been working with them to come into compliance, and the last item on that compliance is getting the appropriate zoning for an auto use, since the B3 is not appropriate. So that is what's happening tonight. They've addressed the nitrogen, they've submitted site plans, everything else is now in compliance. They're going to be adding some landscaping, but the main item is this rezoning so that they're in full compliance. Again, this is most of what the mayor had already talked about. So this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The area is guided for business. This is the approved site plan. Pretty simple. We required compliance on the new lot. The old lot is grandfathered in as it is designed currently. With the approval of the rezoning, the council is required to provide a system statement, making sure that the action is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which I claim it is, and in relevant ordinances. Planning staff recommends approval with this statement declaring the request, consistent with the comprehensive growth management plan and other plans, and it's reasonable in the public interest. And I have a recommended motion here for you, and if you have any questions, please ask.
Any questions for the planning director at this time?
Stephen, are they just going to use the smaller front portion of that lot as indicated on the map?
Yeah, the back portion of that is wet.
Okay.
I believe when they purchased it, they just squared it off with their, much of their property, or maybe they needed so much for stormwater or some other reason.
Any other questions?
I'll just say it looks like it's, that it does look consistent. That would make logical sense. It's connected to the B3 area. That this is one of them situations where this all makes sense. So it looks good to me, I think. But
Stephen, you said this was an effort to bring it into compliance.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes folks go about things in kind of a backwards manner, and they've been very willing to work with us to come into compliance. So this is really the last step.
don't you think sometimes people don't know that they're out of compliance too? They just buy a piece of property beside them and start doing their stuff, and they don't know that it's not the right thing.
That's right.
So.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions from the council for Stephen at this time? Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Not seeing anyone. Right.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve zoning map amendment RZ 2302, finding it consistent with the town of Smithfield Comprehensive Growth Management Plan and other adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our next public hearing, I believe, is on page 23 of your packet. Again, no need for anyone to be sworn in during this public hearing. This is ZA-23-10, the town of Smithfield. The applicant is proposing an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 7, Section 7.44, outdoor vehicle storage, sales, and display to allow for automobile sales display areas to be
Oh,
identified.
I'm sorry. Which one are we on? I'm sorry.
ZA 23-10.
All right, put the wrong presentation up.
I guess, okay. Sales display areas to be identified with a perimeter area stripe in lieu of individual striped parking stalls. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Stephen?
Sorry about that, Mayor.
Not a problem,
Miss
sir.
Wright.
Not a problem.
Just as background, the town had been in some litigation with Deacon Jones and Perfect Ride about parking lot striping requirements. To find a compromise, I should back up, they had applied for a variance and were denied, and then they were, we had a mediation in trying to find a compromise solution that meets the town's needs and the applicant's needs, or the litigant's needs. The draft ordinance was created. The town currently requires cars on sales lots to either be within a striped parking stall, so all cars for sale or display need to be in a striped parking stall, or within a screened storage yard. Within a screened storage yard, they can pack the cars in, but it's out of sight from the public. One of the purposes of regulation is to limit the number of cars on the lot to the number that fit within the striped parking lot or screened storage yard, so that we don't get situations where you get, hundreds of cars parked behind a building and the fire can't get through, and it looks disorderly, it's not a good look for the town, and it's a public safety issue. So this has been, this originally was, we used to have conditional use permits or special use permits for car dealerships, and at the time, the condition that the council consistently put on those applications, those requests, was that the cars be in parked stalls. So when we did away with the special use permit request, we created this section 7.44, outdoor vehicle storage and display in our code that specifically mimicked that typical condition that the council had put on it, so that since they're no longer special use permits, that's just standard now. They need to do that. So that means cars cannot be in drive aisles, they can't be double parked, two in. So basically, automobiles are probably the biggest impact we have on our corridors, especially when you're dealing with auto-oriented uses, so that's why this is a very important ordinance. This ordinance creates a third option for car dealerships. And Deacon Jones has been operating for quite some time without any striping in their lot. And Perfect Ride is planning to renovate or replace their dealership with a new one. And Deacon Jones had just done a improvement to their building, and as part of the zoning requirements, they needed to meet this ordinance. And they provided a striping plan, but then, then challenged it. Is how we got here today. The new ordinance provides this third option. So where you would have, let's say, a bay of striped parking stalls on a lot, you could, the dealership could take a box and create a perimeter box around what could otherwise be striped. And the number of cars that would be in that box would be limited to the same number of cars, but that would allow the dealerships to park cars close or angle them or spread them out when there's fewer cars on the lot. This is something that they like, that flexibility, so they can draw attention to the public. And for the town, the purpose of the ordinance is for us to be able to manage it. As long as we can, have some logical way to manage where cars are on the lot and the number of cars on the lot, how it's done really wasn't a big deal to me as someone who has to enforce this ordinance. So this seemed like a reasonable compromise, giving us what we need and allowing dealerships the flexibility on their lot. And this would not apply to the entire lot. This would be 40% of the parking area. So 40% of the striped parking stalls could be boxed rather than striped. And so this ordinance, we've got confirmation from both parties that they're satisfied with this solution as a compromise. And so that is what we're proposing tonight. So here's an example of Perfect Rides, their sketch plan. The areas in pink would be areas that would be subject to, boxes if they chose. And the rest would be striped or a screen storage yard in the back. And I've got a similar display for Deacon Jones on my desk, but it was too late to put it in here. And this is at 36 display area, so 40% is the agreed upon number for the two parties. So staff feels the zoning text amendment as proposed is consistent with the town of Smithfield's comprehensive growth plan and other adopted plans, and it is reasonable in the public interest. Again, it's reasonable because it's going to achieve the same ends for the town. We're going to be able to manage cars on lots, keeping them out of drive lanes, keeping them out of driveways, allowing public safety to get into lots and out of lots, and create an orderly look to the town. And for them, reasonable for them that they can still operate their businesses as they so choose with flexibility. So the planning board reviewed this draft, and they recommended getting rid of all regulations regarding striping for auto sales and display. Staff is recommending approval of this zoning text amendment. We feel that it is a very important way for the town to manage what is the biggest impact on the town corridors, which is vehicles, whether it's auto repair or any other use. We believe it is consistent with the town's comprehensive growth management plan, and it's reasonable in the public interest. And I have a recommended motion for the council. Any questions?
Any questions for the planning director?
I do have one. So you said this is the best interest to control or help the growth or the corridor, right, with the car lots repair. Well, you said yourself Deacon Jones has been without it for how long?
Oh, I have no idea.
Deacon Jones has been in business for 35 years probably. I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't know that. So why don't we implement this for only 40%? Yeah, I mean, what does it really matter if you're only doing 40%? And how do you determine how many cars can go on a lot at one time? Is it on by square footage? Is it done by? And in my opinion, this is just my opinion. If we need to be business friendly here. So give them the option. So what if the car lot has dirt or gravel lot? What are you gonna do there?
Well,
You're not gonna hold him accountable for that, but because he is, a certain car lot has a paved parking lot, you're gonna make them spend more money.
any new improvement to a car lot is going to require paved and striped parking. Actually, any land
If this
use.
passes.
No, right now, any land use that is obtaining a zoning permit has to show they have appropriate parking, and it needs to be paved and striped. And this is, it's been in the ordinance, but I can't say it's always been enforced evenly before I got here. But since I mean, when I started really reviewing that ordinance, that's in there for a requirement. So we've been enforcing it evenly since then, which is probably 4 or 5 years. And we've had dilapidated lots have to get repaved because they were unable to stripe it, and it really improves the look of the corridor. Old grass parking lots have to be upgraded if they're going to obtain new zoning permits. If they're grandfathered in, I mean, if they're existing and they're not asking for anything from the town, they can continue to operate as they do, and many have chosen to do so. Perfect Ride is a situation, they are upgrading, they have to meet our current code, and that's kind of how we got here with Perfect Ride. And Deacon Jones has been a good citizen in terms of keeping their site orderly. It's not really about Deacon Jones, other than they don't want to stripe. It's really about some of the other parking lots that have abused this in the past and even currently. And we have to apply one standard for all uses, and unfortunately, we have to hold them to the same standard that we are requiring other dealerships. And car sales is unique because the car is the thing they're selling. So if you think about it that way, it does kind of make sense to allow that flexibility in how they display, as long as it is, one, we can manage it. In other words, we know how many cars are on the lot, and this ordinance would allow us to continue to do that. Instead of having to count parking stalls, we require some sort of indication within the box how many cars are allowed there, and it's based on the same number of spacing requirements for cars. Now, they can put them closer, they can spread them out, but as long as that same number allowed in that box, fine. We can enforce our ordinance. And regarding how many cars are on a lot, they do a striping plan to determine how they want to stripe their lot, and that's the capacity. If they don't have enough land, that limits them. So some lots really you can only get so much yield out of it for parking. Deacon Jones has a lot of parking, but they have a lot of need. So it really varies on the user, the site, and it's one standard that we're trying to apply. Otherwise, we can't do what we do. We have no authority.
I don't know if I can ask this. The planning board denied or wanted to do away with this, is what I read. Can we ask their arguments against that? Is that legal to do so, Mayor?
I don't know, I don't recall what was in the minutes, because I wasn't there that night, but you do have the minutes. I don't know fully what their motivation was, but
I didn't see it in the minutes. I may have overlooked it.
Mark did present the exact same information that I'm presenting you tonight, and they had a difference of opinion, apparently.
So my question is, you said 40% of the lot can meet that requirement?
40% of the parking
40% of the parking, right,
on the lot.
on the lot, but we're talking about car parking. We're
Yeah.
not talking about customer parking. We're talking
Right.
about car parking. So the question is there a reason for it being 40%? I mean, I don't know if me personally, I don't care if we have, to their point, I don't care if they stripe it, they screen it, or they tag it. It really doesn't matter to me. Whether it's 10%, 40%, I don't care if they do all of it. They're trying to sell their vehicles. And you know, ever how they want to do it, as long as they meet safety code requirements, you know, that's what's important to me, because safety of everybody. But as far as, I don't know, sometimes I think if we're not careful, government gets our nose in other people's business too much. And so my question is, I don't understand why we say, okay, we're going to let you do it, but only 40%. I just don't. I mean, look to me, if you got a box off where they have the stripe lines, if they want to stripe them, stripe them. If they don't, you still got the same number of cars in the lot, draw a line around it. What does it matter to me? So I just wonder, is there a particular reason why there's a 40% thing for this versus you see what I mean? Or is it just some arbitrary number that somebody chose many years ago and there we are stuck with it?
Well, I can tell you in discussion with Bob, Bob's not here tonight, but Bob is actually the person who negotiated that specific number. He felt like his opinion was we should not allow it everywhere and just allow it as a percentage. And that was the number we agreed to. First, it started at 30%, but to bring Perfect Ride on board, we went to 40%.
And so since, now I'm being ugly.
I don't have
I
a
mean-
strong opinion, because again, for me, it's all about, is it enforceable, and does it achieve the same ends? That's
Okay, but
really
I'm-
my goal.
I
Why don't
understand.
we leave that up to the business then? As long as there's part, right?
I'm gonna, let me interject my one thing though.
Sorry.
One thing though, here's my question then to the staff. If we're gonna cover something that our attorney came up with, should he not be here when we're doing this for us to be able to do that? No offense to the stand-in for him, I appreciate you being here, but I'm assuming you can't answer that question, can you? Why he chose the 40%?
Well, the 40% was actually agreed on by Deacon Jones and Perfect Ride. He started lower, and the reason was based off the safety standard with it. Now, more than that, I have nothing for you. But that was the whole reason he started with it, was for the safety, so you actually have somewhere to be able to follow it. Because I believe you don't have quite as much in your ordinance to really watch out for that safety otherwise as far as limiting it. You can limit it with this, you've got the boxes, and you've got the requirement, plus what's already there for how many cars can be on the lot. But that's why they came up to the 40% together with Perfect Ride at Deacon Jones.
But we're not going to violate the number, same number of cars
Yeah.
in the space as there are the striped. So there's no difference. I don't see safety here. If you've got them designated, it looked like the drawing that you gave us, shows the stripe lines and shows a line around them. Which means you could still put them in the same exact way if you wanted to, or whatever way, but you're not going to put more cars in that space. And you say you got to put a number in the box so people know how many's supposed to be in that space. So I don't understand the 40%. Negotiate it. I don't know why we would negotiate that anyway, but.
It was a preference of our attorney.
And he's not here for us to answer that question. So I'm just saying that's,
Understood.
so I'm almost tempted to say that we need to table this until such time as he's back so he can give us the answer, since that's the ordinance we're looking to approve, this meeting the 40%, because that's what it says. Or we eliminate that altogether, because we don't know why what was negotiated necessarily, unless the manager may know.
CO before next month. We need to bring them into compliance. We can't without this ordinance.
I don't have any
Manager
opposition.
Scott, do you know the answer to that then, why it was 40%?
I don't know if Mike knows the answer to the 40%, but I think he has an answer. I think there was a mention of maybe tabling, so Mike, I'd like for you to address that if you don't mind.
Yeah, there are.
If you know the 40%,
Yeah,
please.
I don't know the 40% other than it was negotiated and it was agreed by all parties, which is normally the way these things are handled. So both Deacon Jones and Perfect Ride were fine with 40%, and the town was fine with it, so that's the number that was settled on. There is an issue, some urgency to get this done tonight. This has been an ongoing litigation between three different attorneys, three different entities. One entity is going to be coming up needing a certificate of occupancy for their building. They're currently in violation because of the existing code. If we don't pass this ordinance tonight, they'll remain in violation, and that means they won't get their CO when they want it. So that it is an issue that needs to be dealt with tonight if we can.
I go back to my original concern then, right? I mean, we're having to make a decision about not having all the information because we don't have the resources here to give us that information. And that's not something that I feel comfortable with. But I also understand, I guess we could always approve it and then bring it back up again later on and make an adjustment to it again if we choose to, so that we can meet the needs of the immediate customer, because we don't want to hinder them from being able to do their business, but, help me.
No, I agree with that. I mean, you certainly could do that, or, the other option is you could do away with the striping altogether. Right? And, I guess my question is from a safety standpoint, I understand that staff has recommended the striping for safety reasons. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think there should be some sense of order and so forth. But to your point, what does the box do? What do the boxes do except for make it easier, if you will? You can still have the same number of cars.
Yep.
So why could we not just limit the number of cars on a lot and say you can only have 100 cars or whatever it may be based off of the layout of your lot, and then that's it, right? And then they park them any way they want to as long as it doesn't hinder traffic and emergency services from being able to get in and out of those parking lots. Now, I will say, I have seen some car dealerships that there is an issue with being able to get in with emergency vehicles. The driveways are blocked. We have an issue with blocking the driveways at night, and if there was an emergency, we would have to push cars out of the way or either be on 301 or 70 or whatever. Most of the car lots are located in those areas, right, to get our emergency services, which then puts our emergency services staff in danger, right? So I'm just giving you an option, right? I mean, we could either, don't disagree, we could either approve tonight. I think our options are we can approve tonight as the ordinance is written. We can certainly do away with the striping. And then if we wanted to bring it back up, we could certainly bring it back up late. Hold on. Yeah, you can correct me, I'm sure. And then the other option is we could certainly continue with our public hearing. We could hold our public hearing open and delay a vote on that, which you just heard the manager side of that. One of the dealerships that's a part of this is probably looking to get their CO before the next 30 days, right? Now, the other option is we could possibly have another meeting, but
So my
in that time.
question, though, is mention litigation.
Right.
So the question is, we agreed to litigation, we agreed through the litigation process, certain things. And so then the question is, if we've already agreed to things through litigation, how would this affect the agreement if we don't agree with the agreement that we have made? Yes, sir. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and part of this is going into mediation. I hadn't forgot your statement or your question, all right? But part of this is the mediation process, right? My understanding is both parties have agreed to this magical 40% number. Wherever it came from, they've agreed to that. So I would assume that if this was approved tonight, that would end any of the current litigation between those two parties based off of the ordinance. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Looking down to our attorney, who must
Confirm
maybe on
this.
the phone with Bob at this time, I'm not sure.
We've been advised that would eliminate the litigation, a lawsuit that's ongoing.
But if you eliminate the striping period, would that end it as well?
Most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, neither really care about the striping. That's a town requirement, and if there was no striping, first of all, we would have cars in the drive lanes because we'd have no means to say you can't park there. There'd be no means, as long as fire trucks could get in. We don't have any ordinance right now that says they can't park in the drive lanes.
Unless we change it tonight.
Yeah, well, this ordinance requires them to park either in a box or a stripe.
I know, but you could eliminate striping and say no parking in.
But when the drive lanes in, it would be marked.
I would contend that we'd have a lot of issues with not maintaining proper 24-foot wide drive lanes because they're not out there with tape measures. You would find congestion kind of on the backside where they do their operations. And the fire chief has had issues already with having to make sure fire lanes are kept clear even with the current striping requirements. It is a difficult thing to manage cars. Cars are ever present and important, but ever present, and one of the biggest nuisances we have to deal with in code enforcement, regardless of whether it's residential or commercial, any use. So I would caution about doing away with all striping. If this council wanted to put boxes around all parking for vehicle display, I don't think anybody would really have a lot of heartburn about it. That was a preference that the attorney had, not to give away the farm, just to say, if this is what they can agree to, he was willing to reach a compromise point.
That's the fourth option, right?
Yeah, so I mean,
I guess my question is, why can't we give them any of there's two options already you had, so why can't we just give them three options? Either one of those options, they can use the screened-in area, they can use the marked lane area, or they do the box area. Either way, they keep the driveways clear, they got the same number of cars in there, and they control what they do in their parking lot. And we don't have to get in their business, which is something I think we don't need to do. We got limited resources to spend in somebody else's business to make sure they got cars parked left or right. I mean,
I can tell you I am comfortable with that additional compromise. I don't think it's going to have a big impact. car dealerships would like it even more. We can still enforce it. Bob may not like it, but it doesn't really have an impact.
Let me weigh in on that.
Please.
So that was related to Bob actually pulled the aerial above to see where they're using their, and Bob's on speaker enough to at least tell me if I'm
Okay.
saying something wrong. But, he pulled the aerial to see what above what would look like to decide where they actually already had this type of parking to determine where it was. It was about 30%. That's how I came up with the narrative in the first
Okay,
place.
okay.
So it went up to 40% since then, mainly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from Perfect Ride, who needed a little bit more. And they were looking at Deacon Jones when he was looking at that. So that's how you got the number.
But so it doesn't, it would not negatively affect our litigation efforts if we just gave them the three choices.
I'm sure they would not be against you giving them choices or anything of that nature. I
And it
mean,
wouldn't affect us in any way. We would have still the same, we would still be able to protect, we would have better protection, safety-wise, for the driveways and such, right? I mean, than we have today.
It'd be the
And
same.
then people have a choice.
It'd be the same.
How do we guarantee a fire truck can get in and out?
Because we have a stripe parking plan, and the cars need to be
Right,
compliant.
but what,
No, then they shut the
So they have
box.
40%.
They'll still have to
box.
be in the box, right?
But you have 40%.
Either, okay,
Oh,
just to make sure.
Okay, I'm
When you
getting a little
say
confused
three
here.
options, I think am I hearing striped parking places, the 40% in the box, or everything in a box?
No.
Or nothing.
No, the three options was, he said there was two options. Our two options would be the screened yard.
Yeah, screened yard, sure.
Right, screened
Yeah, yeah.
yard, marked spaces, or the boxes.
screen yard's not gonna happen at a new car lot. Just go ahead and- that's not gonna happen.
Right. I think that's primarily
They have
for
stripes?
used car lots with.
Well, if they have a,
Boxes or nothing.
if they have a building and they build a building, a warehouse, as an example, and then I guess that counts as a screened lot, doesn't it?
If they do service, sometimes they will
Service or
have
like Gray's Garage, they got screen.
damaged cars or cars
That's what I'm
that
saying,
are.
so they could have that, could be, and then they just park them
Yeah.
and they work on them, and nobody's gonna be back there, per se, necessarily. So I think the three options is still, those three things, doesn't matter to us, Sam.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine. I don't have any objection unless Bob has some objection.
Bob have a problem with that? I mean, he was on there now.
Bob, you don't have any issue if they have the option of just doing the boxes wherever, as long as it meets the striped parking rules, right?
That makes sense.
You don't have an issue if they
We
have
can-
the
same
option of
space.
boxing period, do you? It's like it's not just not a 40% limitation, they can do boxing everywhere if they want.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the driveway has to be,
The thing is, that way you know how many cars will be in the box. They put a
Still maintain the numbers.
45 or whatever. That way, if they
They
go
have to
count,
just
make
do
sure they
boxing,
violate
right? So they have to
it.
just
They know
follow
how many's in that box. There's a line drawn. They can count how many cars in that box.
issue if there's not a limit of 40%?
And that's what their choice. They can do it was on the line today. They were going for each light.
I don't see a necessary
They
issue.
asked for the box. They asked for the box.
Yeah, so through the lanes, everything based off the striped parking part.
That's all we
Which I don't think
protect the
there's an issue
driveways.
there if you do that.
But they won't have another, that will be their sales lot. They showed this, here's the drawing here.
Yeah, they're still gonna have driveways, it's just, because they still have to meet the base parking, so they'll still have the driveways.
Cars in, I don't care
Be able
what
to get
they-
around and make sure
don't
safety
know.
is through.
And they see they go driveways. That's right, that's what they're talking about.
Yes.
how do you keep a 21-year-old car salesman from going and parking a car? in
Even
their
you
driveway?
think the actual.
You get a violation, have somebody write them up.
The
for
way, the
violation.
driveaways
It's
get
like you
through
do
will be
today if they
effective.
park in the road.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're trying to.
Councilman Barber, he doesn't have an issue with it, because it's still, at the end of the day, you're still gonna have the lanes. So
But
if
the
you do
key's lane.
100%, you still have the lanes and you're fine.
Are the lanes marked?
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Here. That's what it is. Just like this.
So,
Instead of straight line, they just put a
Stephen,
box.
the overall number of
Thanks.
cars is allowed by the
No, no,
building size
no,
and the paved
no, I'm not
parking
in
area,
boxes.
correct?
I said,
And all we're trying to do is make sure we keep the driveways, means of egress and exit clear for large vehicles, fire trucks, trash trucks, everything.
Yes.
So if the
everybody.
whole thing was divided in 4 big boxes around the buildings, people could get in and out, that would accomplish the purpose.
Correct.
But I would like to make the point, the reason all this happened is one's building a new building, one added on, that's what triggered it, correct?
Correct.
So nothing is personal against them, because those are 2 good examples of people that had an open entry exit anyway. It's some of the smaller, less regulated ones that are causing the problem, correct?
Correct.
But at the same time, unless those ones that are causing the problem do an improvement, they'll never have to come into
They'll
compliance
remain the
anyway.
same. That's correct.
If,
Is
if
that
they've,
accurate?
if it's, anybody that has gotten a zoning permit is subject to these rules and we've been enforcing these rules. The only ones that wouldn't be were, say, the grass lots that have been in existence for the last, beyond 6 years.
Uh-huh.
Anything that's gotten a zoning permit from us, there's been some on South Brightleaf that have changed hands and we have a new zoning permit requirement. We go out there and we make sure that the lots are striped. Sometimes all the striping it's there, but it's worn out. They need to restripe it. Has to be maintained. And so that's, yes, many of the ones we currently have do need to be in compliance. It's just some of the older ones that have never done any change.
But that'll never get triggered until they change hands.
That's right.
Or make significant improvements to the
That's right.
property. That requires approval by the town.
That's right.
And that's true. If it changes hands, that would trigger it?
If there's a new tenant, they come in for a new zoning
A new
permit.
tenant, okay.
It's tied to the zoning permit.
What about if it is the same tenant? Is there a certain amount of time, say for instance, they go out of business or whatever? And they stay out of business, I'm just using that as an example. Is there a time frame that would trigger the ordinance, say 6 months, they decide to go back in the business? Same tenant, same lot, same grass?
Nonconformities after 6 months disappear.
Okay, so after a 6-month period of ceasing whatever operation, it would trigger whatever the ordinance is at that time?
That's right.
Okay.
Now,
So
you may have just answered that. Help me, because I may have misheard. So the car lots with gravel parking lot now, and we have some, or grass or whatnot. Are you telling me if that changes hands, they're gonna have to have their parking lot paved?
if they come in for a new zoning permit, we would need to verify that the parking lots are paved and striped. And gravel paving is not an approved surface, so yes, they would need to pave. So it does put a burden on some of those older lots. They're going to have to, at some point, come into compliance, especially some of those with really, really, really old trailers. There's only so long that those trailers are going to last.
So if they have to put a new trailer on there and it doesn't change hands, because they're upgrading their
Yeah.
lot or the appearance of the lot, they have to get it paved.
This is not just
I answer-
car
is that
dealerships, it's other
correct?
uses too.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
But that's the way it is now.
Yep.
Anyway, this has nothing to do with that. This is just the striping part
That's
of
just
it.
not-
I want to just point out, based on where this discussion is going, we would just be striking 7.44.3.3. That item, that line item here in the code, everything else would stay the same. Because that has the 40% in it. That would be striking 7.44.3.3. So that would create a third option at their discretion.
If you did that, would you have to eliminate 3.1, 4431?
I'm sorry?
If you eliminated 7.44.3.3, that's talking to,
The boxes,
that's the boxes.
but with the 40%.
Gotcha. That's just total, okay. Never mind. So where are we?
Public hearing still.
That's right. We haven't even gotten to the audience yet.
That's right. It's still public
I thought this
hearing.
was gonna be short tonight, guys.
Hearing.
So it sounds to me like the options, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the options of maintaining the parking spots and then allowing for the use of boxes, but not limiting it to just 40%. They could have boxes everywhere as long as it didn't interfere with our traffic, emergency vehicles, and the driving lanes. I know I'm oversimplifying that, but that's the gist of it. That's what I'm hearing. And then we allow them the option of doing either. Is that what I've heard people talking about? I mean,
Repeat that one time more. Apologize.
okay, clerk, Madam Clerk, did you get that? All right, let's try it one more time. All right.
Condense it into a synopsis.
So, number one, allow striping, just as the ordinance currently allows. Number two, allow for the boxes, but do away with the 40% maximum. And they could just have boxes, and then the other one is, basically, they could do either one. Is that?
Well, then what do we do?
And the screen display, to keep, because I don't consider the screen display even part of this. The screen display to me
That's the storage part.
is a storage area. I don't think it has anything to do with this. That's why I keep forgetting the screen area. The screen is for businesses that are doing work and storing those cars outside. That's why we put that screening section in place, so that they're not storing junk vehicles so that you can see them. I see those two things as totally different, but I guess it's part of this section of the ordinance, so that's why we have to still allow it, or whatever. Okay. So, all right,
I understand that.
all right. Is that good?
I'm okay with that
All right.
myself.
So any other questions for Stephen at this time?
I'm gonna ask a stupid question.
No stupid questions.
There it is, pretty stupid. So, why don't you just, to save money for the business owner, because it's gonna be, they're gonna have to do this everywhere, across their lots, right? Is that what you're telling me? Hey, if we go to 100% and eliminate the 40%, correct?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just paint a perimeter around where the trucks can get through, like one line back around?
That's what this does.
No, it doesn't. You just told me that he had to paint individual boxes.
Well, if they have
That's
landscape
what we've been
islands,
talking about for 30 minutes now.
if there are landscape islands on the ends, you can't really stripe the ends. There's no purpose. But what it does do is it creates an orderly,
You just put a line straight down one end of the lot and say, this is where you cannot cross.
well,
I
if,
know you're trying to limit the amount of cars in that area, but
the reason for the closed box is so they don't basically look like a race strip. And, if it's just a bunch of linear lines in a parking lot, it's not as, doesn't make as much sense.
where you,
You would have,
no, that don't make any sense.
the lines wouldn't make sense without a
The whole purpose
terminus.
was to have safety vehicles, EMS, and keep the driveways free.
But how do you know which line to drive in? You need the box. The closed box would signal that you can't get in.
If the purpose is safety, one line could be drawn, I think. That's just my opinion.
But is also somewhat uniformity too, correct? I mean,
Absolutely.
Look, aesthetics is also part of this process. So if you just did a whole big parking lot, just put one big white line around it,
Yeah.
I don't
then
go
you
to a
wouldn't have
car
any
lot
aesthetics.
saying, well, hey, there's a box there, I'm gonna buy a car in a box. I mean, I go because I wanna buy that car, right? The purpose was to give fire and EMS, police around the building, right? A perimeter where they can get around and be in safe formation, if you wanna call it, correct?
Well,
So that's what I'm
that's
saying.
from our side, right? That is from our side,
Yeah.
Councilman Wood, but from the dealership side, and I may be speaking wrong, but The reason this was brought up was because of requiring the striping, which the striped individual parking spots, which I would assume means that by doing that, you have to theoretically, have to park your cars within those spots. And you're limited from a marketing standpoint of those vehicles of angling them at a certain angle, doing some this way, some this way, or whatever. What the box will allow is for them to do what they were wanting to do, which is park their cars at certain angles, but still have some type of uniformity to it so that the emergency vehicles can get in and out, and that staff could somehow try to determine if they're in compliance, right, with the
That's
number of vehicles. Again, I may be speaking wrong, I really don't know. Is that fair?
That's exactly right.
Because I mean, I see cars, at car lots parked different ways, and I'm not in the car business. They're the ones who know how to market cars, not me. So that's why I would almost say just get rid of the striping and rock on with it, but I also see the other side that's been presented here regarding emergency vehicles and so forth, so.
So, point of thing. So one of the reasons why we have this ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, is so that we can count cars.
Yeah.
Because there's a limitation on how many cars they have on that lot. So therefore, the stripe lines on the boxes enabled us to count the cars.
Correct.
So it's for that purposes, that's one of the main purposes for the stripes, was not for safety necessarily, it's for us to be able to count the cars.
Well-
Now you have the box, that's why you're gonna put the number in the box, so we still know the maximum number that can go in that box, and we can still make sure they aren't violating their number of cars on the lot. Is that correct?
Partially, parking lot striping is a safety issue. People need to know where to park, where to drive. Otherwise, you have chaos, especially when you got a very big paved area. You don't want people driving diagonally across because accidents will happen. So this is intent to basically find a compromise that allows them to do what they want to do, still have a defined drive space, a defined parking space with the same number of cars in either case.
I understand. You feel better?
I don't think he's good with it.
I've asked all my questions.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward. If you will, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Lane. I live in the ETJ area of Smithfield. First of all, the recommendation from the planning board was not presented as it was, as in the notes. The notes are, we were to remove all striping from this ordinance. Access must be available for emergency vehicles and uniformity in the way that they are displayed. Customer and employee parking must be striped. That was passed by the planning board unanimous, 7-0. Now, and I hear when discussion here with Deacon Jones, Perfect Ride, has coming up a lot about the litigation that the town has had between those two. The litigation part is over with. What you're doing tonight is adopting an ordinance. So the planning board, as long as the emergency vehicles can have egress, ingress, as long as the customers and employees have stripe parking, it's a waste. You're limiting the way the dealerships can display their cars. And you got to remember, this is a sales area. This is where the man makes his money. It's in the parking lot. So, I just wanted to let you know exactly what went on at the planning board meeting.
Can you repeat that one more time, what y'all's decision was?
Do what now?
Can you repeat that one more time? What,
What the,
if you don't mind, Mr. Lane?
hold on.
Only thing we got, you want to do away with striping.
It should, we made a motion to remove all striping from the ordinance.
That's all we got.
Access must be available for emergency vehicles and uniformity in the way the cars are displayed. Customer and employee parking must be striped, and that was unanimously approved.
So employee parking and customer parking was, y'all wanted to be striped.
Has to be striped. The only thing that's not striped is sales area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
So on page 19 of the minutes from the planning board, top of that page, third paragraph. I'll just draw your attention to that. You're correct, though. That's not what was on our action list. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next.
My name is Sarah Edwards. My address is 1282 E Packet Plant Road. And similar to Mr. Lane's comment, actually, I just had questions about how parking for staff and for for customers would be addressed with either the 40% or the unregulated parking areas.
So I think staff parking and visitor parking would be striped and would be required to have X number of striped parking places for that, but I'll let the planning director answer that
They
question.
still need to meet the parking standards.
Right, which they would have to be striped.
Yeah.
Striped, handicap spaces, the certain number of handicap spaces and everything would be required, and enough parking for staff and for visitors
Yeah.
on the lot would be striped. Even whether we do this or not, this is only for the sales
Yeah.
cars that are for sale.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir. Did you?
I just wanted to make a comment. I thank Mark for clarifying the minutes. I did paraphrase or generalize the planning board's recommendations. But I would caution that just saying that we need to maintain, or the applicant needs to maintain drive lanes, do they really know how wide they need to be? Are they out there with tape measures? How do we, becomes pretty arbitrary and capricious. And if they're not required to put any striping, traffic control, I mean, it's basically a form of traffic control, what about Walmart? What about any other future businesses that come? We do require striped parking, and there's a reason. And I just, from a consistency point, we should maintain some form of striped parking for all land uses. Otherwise, we're going to have we're going to be challenged for being arbitrary and capricious. If the attorney might want to comment on that, but that's my feeling.
The comment would be, you have to, if you don't have it defined, you can't start holding it differently against certain people. And that's what you put yourself at the challenge of happening. You get one person you treat one way, you try to treat someone else slightly different because you don't have something lays it out. This lays it out where it's going to be approved based off where those boxes are, which helps you a lot because you have control of it.
And it's different because it's display.
Yeah.
Walmart's not displaying vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Blake Holloman, Fire Marshal. Appreciate you guys working on this. I feel your pain, first of all. This is the issue. I do know personally I've failed a couple of fire inspections. We do have a part in the code that does discuss public fire access, fire department access. I see this being an issue from anything from the customers loading and unloading vehicles all the way to the police department making traffic stops, going to a safe lit parking lot for their safety. And more importantly, on my end, I take personal pride in is getting our fire trucks in and out, getting our guys off the road, get them safe. So I do know this is an ongoing issue. I kind of like the idea also of having some sort of way to identify, but it's going to be a challenge. And the regulation part, well, That falls on my shoulders and our office to do fire inspections. Like I said, we do have a couple of lots that are not in compliance on that end, and pretty much by the time I finished the inspection, I had to wait till cars get moved to get my inspection vehicle out of the public access road. So it's not just fire apparatus, it's, if you, I think to echo kind of what Steve was saying, and also to add to what Mr. Mark was saying as well, it is a challenge, and you got to find that happy medium, but at the same time, if you set yourself up for no standard at all, maybe we're not doing the customer, whether it be the business or the fire service or the emergency services, as well as justice for their safety as well. So maybe it's having some kind of identification standards or limitations. You know, typically ours is a 20-foot wide 20-foot wide entryway. Some of the DOT standards are 24-foot wide. Our turn radius is to get in and out of the truck, getting in and out off the roadway are a little bit different, a little bit challenging depending on what truck we are. We have to be able to get to a certain point of the building to even deploy our hose line. So, I mean, all that kind of comes into play when we look at a plan. And just like, you know, Steve showed a plan, that's kind of what we look at. So just for clarification, I'll be happy to answer any questions I can. So I feel your pain on this. This is a challenge and an issue, so I'll help with whatever I can.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward at this time. Okay. Not seeing anyone. Any other questions for staff at this time?
So, this ordinance here, though, specifically, is dealing with, I gotta find it now. Outdoor vehicle storage, sales, and display. So there is a parking ordinance that's already required of all businesses in the town of Smithfield,
We
correct?
have parking minimums for all uses.
Minimum parking and designated marked lane spaces, correct? So they're for customers and for, they're limited for, there's an amount for customers and for staff parking. Because I
That's
know
right.
we do that as part of the approvals, we see that all the time. They have to, because sometimes they have to modify things, get them in there like they need to. So this has nothing to do with that at all. This is strictly dealing with outdoor vehicle storage, sales, and display.
Correct.
So, and so then the suggestion of the boxes that were provided were display boxes, not customer parking, not employee parking, not just anybody parking, but can only be used for designated display of vehicles that are for sale. It's like a showroom, but outdoors, correct?
I can tell you that you're going to find people parking wherever they feel like it's a safe parking spot, designated spot. You'll probably find customer parking there
Not
too.
customers, sure, I do it.
Yeah, but generally, customer, if there's visible stripe parking, I would contend most customers would go there. In fact, right now, Classic Ford, you don't know where customers should park because vehicles for display and for customers are all striped. So this ordinance could actually help clarify where customers should park.
Any other questions for Stephen or anyone at this time? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, it's the pleasure of the council.
I'm going to move that we approve the motion with the exception of removing that line 7.3, what was it?
7.44.3.3.
That's correct. And that gives us the three options. Is that correct?
Are we sure about
Yes.
that?
So I make a motion, we approve zoning text amendment ZA 23-10 with those modifications that were listed.
I think it does, but. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on this matter? I just want to, I'm just looking at that section 733 right now, just to make sure that that is correct. I think. Talks about the, okay, all right, okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, well, now we will move on to our next public hearing. Again, no one needs to be sworn in for this one. It's ZA-23-11, the Town of Smithfield once again. The applicant is proposing an amendment to Unified Development Ordinance Article 7, Section 7.30.1, special events that will remove the requirement for a temporary use permit for events held in town parks, except when there is a planned street closure or amplified sound after 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. when associated with the Town Commons Amphitheater. This time I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Okay, we'll open the public hearing this time. Stephen, turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. So temporary use permits are currently required with amplified sound, more than 100 people, road closures or blockage, food trucks on private property, and the likelihood of damage to public or private property, that sort of thing, to guarantee public health, safety, and welfare. For special events in parks, the organizer already needs approval of the parks director for those events. So there's requiring the parks director's approval, and then planning department permit that goes to town council. The draft ordinance would allow the Parks Department as a designee of the manager to approve all events within parks exempting the requirements for temporary use permit, again, like the mayor said, unless there were a street closure or amplified sound after 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. for the amphitheater. Basically, parks are intended for recreation. Recreation typically has lots of loud noise, baseball, screaming, those sorts of things, kids screaming at playgrounds. That is essentially what parks are for. And Gary's here if you want to talk to him about this. But this really, we get a lot of these permits, and it's a lot of burden on staff, and it's a lot of burden on the council having to review all these when they appear to be pretty uniform. Furthermore, with the programming of the amphitheater that's anticipated, that would be a lot of steps to program each and every band that might want to come and use the new amphitheater. So we're trying to create a more streamlined process that gives the park director and the manager, as park director as his designee, the control over what happens in his parks, unless, again, it's loud noise after 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. with the amphitheater. And street closures.
Any
So with the
questions?
amphitheater, you may find street closures from time to time.
What time do all the parks normally close anyway?
Dusk.
Okay.
Gary, what time do the parks close?
Parks with lights at 10:30, parks without light at dusk.
10:30 for ones with lights.
Yep, and dusk for those without.
Those are tennis courts and the basketball courts.
And most parks don't have any housing directly around them. I mean, not in immediate proximity that I can think of.
Not the parks that would be,
Beth Collins does, they're really close there. And across from the amphitheater, there are probably 3 or 4 residences across the street from it, I think. Is that correct? 3 or 4?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them.
Silvertown
Kid-
Fields got a bunch
Kitty
of them.
Park, Dog Park,
Silvertown
they all
down
have
there.
houses pretty much right there at them.
Drone Park.
How often do we have?
Roger's house.
Yeah, the drone park. How often do we have?
You got no lights.
Coming this week.
Although we
How
can't fly at
often do
night.
we have
That's
people request
The kiddie park above it. That's the park.
amplified sound that late in the day? I mean, I'm just,
Gary, can you
Gary,
respond?
do you mind coming forward to the podium, please?
I mean, I'm just trying to get to the point that 9 o'clock, a lot of people, 9 o'clock's kind of late for
Most
some
of the
people.
time, it's not that late. Very, very rarely will it be till 9 o'clock, and that may be something at the community park, maybe at Smith Collins. But other than the other parks, never.
I mean, I wonder if we could scale that back a little bit, just my thought. I don't have any in my proximity, but I'd hate to be bothered by it.
What about I think you also included the amphitheater though, did you not?
Yeah, the amphitheater until 10.
But I'm saying that,
That's 10.
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that's late enough, but.
If you scale back, then we're kind of just where we were.
Yeah, but you said most people don't even ask for it that late, do they? How late do most people ask for on average?
7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock. Most of the time, it's a church group or church service. You may have groups out there that's having a family reunion that would, a big gathering that may want amplified sound or that kind of thing. But most of those are daytime.
But
into
usually
the early
8 o'clock's
evening.
about it.
But occasionally, they'll go a little bit late. At the community park, it's not so bad because you don't have a whole lot of housing. I know in some of the other parks. The amphitheater, you're probably going to go later than 9:30. You're going to go up till 10. Sometimes you may go up to 11, but after 10, it would require a temporary use permit from you guys.
Okay, but the ordinance actually says that if they go past 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, that's when they have to come to us.
Correct.
You have the right to approve it up to 9 o'clock or up to 10 o'clock for the amphitheater.
Correct, according to the ordinance,
Okay.
yes.
That means if there's a big event coming up, we know they're gonna like something going on in the amphitheater. A big time show comes, they wouldn't even start till 9 o'clock sometimes, because they have pre-stuff to do it. So, which we hope we get there. So it could be later. I understand.
All right, any other questions?
Huh? Okay, I'll say it again. Anything past 9 o'clock, and all the rest of it has to approval by us, special events. Anything past amphitheater, past 10 o'clock has to be approved by us. This doesn't give them just 9 o'clock and below for the regular parks, and 10 o'clock and below, 10 o'clock and below, they can approve for the amphitheater. Anything above that, they have to come to us for that. That's what it says in the
Right.
ordinance.
I mean, I guess the amphitheater, you kind of expect it because the amphitheater's been there in some form for a long time. I just think 9 o'clock on the other parks might be a little late.
We got, there's ball games going out there all the time at the community park past 9 o'clock, right now.
Yeah, and there's nothing around the community
Well,
park. But there's
okay,
other
but-
parks around town too.
So we could say limited, we want to limit it to certain parks, with the
No, I
exception
would- I
of,
would
we can
say
say the
8
exception
o'clock.
of community park then, because community park, clearly, they're going to be stuff at community park past 9 o'clock almost all the time. Thank goodness, because a lot of people do, there's sometimes 10 o'clock they're starting playing, when they're playing, we've had games out there crossing over to the next day, so and they got PA systems, sometimes they use them.
For some of the parks, I think 9 o'clock might be a little late. With neighbors that close to it. So, I'd feel more comfortable with 8. Now, community park, maybe that's different.
You can
Yeah,
have
obviously,
special
amphitheater.
use, Right,
Yeah, it would still come,
Yeah, yeah.
anything beyond that would come to us.
right.
So can we change that then to include which park do you think, besides the community park, would this really be a factor for?
The amplified sound
That's right,
factor
and
would be
maybe,
at Smith
obviously,
Collins.
Smith Collins, yep.
It'll be at the amphitheater, it'll be at the community park. Once in a blue moon, once in a very blue moon at the dog park, if we had a Poochapalooza or some kind of event there, the last time we had one, it was during the daytime hours, so I don't see that. These are just parks that would have amplified sound that, maybe the boat ramp, but that's
How
part
about the
of the
Civitan
amphitheater.
field?
Civitan Field, dog park,
Right, okay,
So-
yeah.
but that would be, I don't know if we've had any requests from that besides something that we did with the Parks and Recreation Department.
So I guess the
Boat
question,
ramp, you may have
Amplified
something.
sound at 710, right? You don't have amplified sound at 710.
No,
Ordinarily, you don't.
no, we don't.
And you don't even have access to do that unless you
No,
brought someone in. for
Right.
that. Right.
so mainly you're talking about Smith Collins, the community park, and the amphitheater.
so then can we modify the ordinance to specify those at that time period and any of the rest of them below that, like, to your point? That would make you feel,
Well, I
make
mean,
it closer
if
to.
8 o'clock would get rid of 90% of them for Gary's request, you said the majority, I don't know. I just made up 90%, but, I mean, you said the majority of them.
Go with that, John, we'll go with that.
Well, except for the
So,
south,
I
with the
mean,
exception of those other parks.
But he said most everything wraps up by 8 anyway, and I just
At the
don't
community park, you'll have more that go later than that.
Yeah,
simply
not the
because
community park,
it's
you're not.
Probably
by
less
design.
people are affected by that.
Yeah, let's say, I think community park, you could throw them in there with the 10 o'clock thing if you wanted to, but I really don't. I think the community park is all athletic, they don't have any, you don't have anything at the community park typically that's not athletic events, do you?
No, except for your rentals under the shelter.
Yeah, under a shelter, but I mean, out there, that's something different, but almost of the,
But that's where you get a lot of your requests for your food trucks and your amplified sound is at those,
oh, I say, okay.
you know, they either want a DJ or they want, you know,
And they're even more isolated, though, away from people that don't live,
Yeah.
not many of them people live close to that area, even further away. So I guess my question is, I think you need to give them more leeway for the community park and for, Smith Collins and for, the amphitheater.
Well, I mean, for Smith Collins, I mean, there's a lot of people who live right around that. That's what Marlon was saying.
Well, I know back in June, if I'm not mistaken, we did approve a Father's Day cookout up to about 9 o'clock. I mean, one thing about June, I mean, it's lighter. I mean, it's not as dark. So, but that's been about the latest one that I'm familiar with. I know we did that this year, and I mean, it's just getting dark, and there wasn't no issues this year. So I mean, people by then was already gone anyway. 'Cause it was so hot for one. I mean, they ain't really stayed that late. So I mean.
I think the point of this is to streamline everything, so I feel like we're up here
Right.
kind of splitting some hairs. We can always come back and change it, can't we?
Sure.
If it becomes an issue.
If it becomes an issue.
So basically, this is just saying the Parks and Rec is just gonna pretty much take care of most of it, and them not really coming here to get the amplified sound, is that what it is?
it saves folks from having to go to two different places for their permits.
I just think we need to thoroughly understand who we doing it to, especially when it comes to Smith Collins Park, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't have an issue with it.
Any other questions for staff?
How about amplified sound on Sundays? What time would you start that? Especially,
Well, at the community
some of
park,
these-
you know, and at Smith Collins too, you may have some church groups that may want to go out and have some kind of service, and at the amphitheater, you
Right.
know, that morning. I wouldn't start before 9 o'clock, I don't think, but I mean, you're gonna have some church services, you know, you may wanna have a sunrise service for Easter at the amphitheater, you may want to, we get a lot of requests from churches, and it's 9 or 10 o'clock on Sunday morning.
okay.
I think 9 to 9 is reasonable, I don't want to
You
start
just
too early.
raised another issue. All right, because we've got several churches that currently meet that are right around the amphitheater. And some churches have lots of music,
Right, and we don't have
lots
to,
of singing and lots of other stuff. And all of a sudden, if, based off of what you just said at the amphitheater, if that's allowed at a 9 o'clock on a Sunday, that could severely interfere with our brick and mortar churches that we have right now. I would certainly highly recommend that you, I don't know how you, if we allow this, I don't know how you're going to regulate
And you can
that.
set times for Sundays, you can set it
Right.
for 12
We
o'clock.
can eliminate Sundays from this list.
Or the
Special permit
amphitheater on
Right.
Sundays, or, and I know there's a church right there at Smith Collins too that may be affected, but, I mean, at the community park is, you're not affected.
You got the bridge right across the street.
That's far enough to where it's not,
Oh, okay, it wasn't,
yeah,
okay.
across a divided highway.
I would limit it, I would recommend limiting that to one location.
And I don't care if we don't do it at any location, that's fine, if we don't do it before 12 o'clock on any
On
day.
Sundays,
On
yeah,
Sundays.
on Sundays.
And if you did it, it would be one
I mean,
location.
and if they wanted to do it, they can come before the council, right, to
Yep.
seek it, right? But if you, if you just open it up, then, I mean, you could have whatever weddings or whatever going on, down at the amphitheater or wherever it may be, not just amphitheater, in any of the parks, right? So if we just eliminate Sundays or not started until
So
afternoon.
I'd say 12, 12:30.
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Have any questions or comments on this matter? Okay, not seeing any. Any further questions or anything for staff? If not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. What is the direction of the council?
Well, we had several discussions.
Still in discussion, aren't we?
a little bit. Did you want to?
I'm sorry.
Or not?
Everybody else is fine with it.
Okay.
when
We
anybody
do need to
needs-
add that amendment to, we do need to adjust the amendment for Sunday.
For Sundays, yeah. And I think John said he was okay with the times, is that correct?
Sunday at 12, 12:30, is that
To what time later though?
Sir,
Till from starting after 12:30, but then what about night? How far into the night? That was the,
yeah, how,
I think, why can't we I think we need to just eliminate Sundays altogether, and if they have a special event on Sundays, they gotta do the same process they've always done. That way we have more control, because again, we don't impact the brick and mortar people already too, if it's a church event or something else going on, on Sundays. There's a lot of times when people get together to do things, and they don't want to be interfered with somebody else's getting together to do their thing too, right? You see what I mean? I think Sundays are different than the normal Monday through Saturday stuff.
no, you're saying not to,
Exclude Sundays from this ordinance.
unless they come before the council.
They would have, they would,
Like
they
they
would.
have before.
That's just like they're for. They can still get it, but they just have to come for us on Sundays.
Okay.
That way we can answer the complaints.
So what I'm hearing, I just want to clarify, I think we could insert after amplified sound, Monday through Saturday. So
Yes.
those, Monday through Saturday, amplified sound would be exempt.
I think that's correct. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Monday through, okay.
So what's the point in excluding Sunday again?
We're not excluding, I think we're asking, like they have in the past, to come before the council to get special permission. So it won't interfere with the brick and mortar churches already.
So on the Wednesday night Bible study, we got churches near Smith Collins, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, then what? I mean, it's pretty much the same concept. I mean, it's different because, yeah, it's housing over there, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, still ain't helping them out.
That's what you want. We've not made a motion yet, so.
I mean, I just,
You know, I mean, if you
No, I
want
think
to add
he's,
that.
that's a valid point.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
it's a
got
valid point. If you want to add it, we can add that.
That's a valid point, but what if people have church on Thursday night? I mean, there are churches that have church on Thursday night or on Tuesday night, so that they're out on Wednesday night, so they ain't going to church. So they do that on Wednesday, they go on visitation Wednesday night, because they know who's not going to church. So I've seen people, so there's,
I mean, if a church wants to rent out the amphitheater, I mean, I would love for that to happen.
yeah. So,
So I don't want
I
to,
guess, but it talks
I guess
about
we could
the
still do
time.
something. get
well,
approved.
it's all good, keep it like it is, it's good.
I mean, I don't mind adding to it.
so my question, though, can I ask you a question, since you, for Smith Collins, though, you have a lot of stuff out there on Sundays, don't you? Don't you have events there during the day on Sundays? And the way it's set up now, then, it would go this way, any special events that you did has to come through here, but if you do that, you just go to Parks and Recreation for the events not come here, which helps you out do a lot better instead of having to come to us for everything you do it. So I don't want to eliminate that, and that's on Sunday, because you guys do a lot of stuff on Sundays. So I don't want to take that away, so may have to get the extra stuff, is what I'm saying. I mean,
That's fine,
so,
that's fine. We good?
Yeah.
okay,
Greg, maybe do
All right,
it
so we'll do
at
that.
this point.
Saturday, Monday through Sunday, Monday through Saturday, I mean.
Okay.
So we made the change to the amendment to say, require strict closure, amplified sound after 9 PM or 10 PM there, Monday through Saturday. Is that correct? Is that what you did?
Right.
I move to approve zoning text amendment ZA 2311, amending Article 7, as listed here with those modifications we just said.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Carries. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's see. Get through that. We didn't have any public hearings. Okay. This time we'll move to citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to speak during citizens' comments, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please, and I will ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Well, before I say what I was going to say, I want to say kudos for the conversation for all the public hearings. It was very good. Good evening. My name is Emma Gimmel. I'm at 207 Hancock Street, Smithfield, North Carolina. From the last month's request, I wanted to know if you had, if either the town council or Mr. Scott or Mr. Cradle had the answers to the questions that I asked that night about the water plant.
He's right there.
Okay, if not, I would like for Mr. Scott and Mr. Cradle, if you could, answer the questions to the following questions before our next November meeting, November the 14th. I think you changed the meeting from the regular time until after that. Thank you, I appreciate it. I am speaking in regards to the questions I requested in writing about the water plant expansion at last town council meeting on September 5th, 2023. In May of 2023, Pam and I went to the water plant open house, and during the tour of the water plant, we noticed several big items were not included in the expansion. When we asked Mr. Scott about the project, it was always on budget. The 3 items we noticed were, number 1, the new roof, no new roof on the older part of the water plant. Number 2, not sure if this is the correct wording, but there were 3 water wells that weren't waterproofed, since the new one was the only one waterproofed. So those are still in need of repair, of being waterproofed. Number 3, no air conditioning in the computer control room. In May, they had fans to keep the computers cool. I can't imagine in the heat of the summer. These were the ones we saw with the DEQ representative during the water plant May open house. The questions we wanted answered in writing from the town are these. What are the items given DEQ for deferred maintenance in the loan request of $16 million? What deferred maintenance items weren't accomplished per the loan from DEQ? What deferred maintenance items were accomplished? What was the final budget to close out the loan, and is the loan closed out? What were the items not able to be accomplished that were not on the deferred maintenance list? Realizing that 7.4 was the deferred maintenance of the $16 million loan, how did we spend $16 million? Versus what were the budgeted items? These questions, I hope, will be of interest to our town council and to the citizens. Maybe you already have these answers, so it will be easy to let our citizens know the costs, the expenditures, and if any over budgeting items. What items will need to be put into the budget in the near future instead of much further down the road from a $16 million loan? We appreciate getting the written request before next month's town council meeting to answer the questions. It is an unusual request for a $16 million water plant expansion to let the public know how their monies were spent. Thank you for your time in answering the questions.
Shannon, will you be able to get those questions, or do you need the list from Ms. Gimmel? You have it, okay. So we'll make sure that those get answered, absolutely. Yep. Yes, ma'am. If you will, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Alice Vick. I reside at 503 Bridge Street, Smithfield, North Carolina. I came in on August meeting, and I missed the one for September, and I'm back here again today. I would like for Mr. Andy Moore, Mr. Michael Scott, or either Mr. Marlon Lee. My home was forcibly invaded into. I'm 59 years old. I have pictures of my injuries and stuff that I sustained, and I have photos of the officer that caused my injuries. I have a card here from Miss Susan Doyle with Mr. Rick Hoffman name on the back of it. And this happened on that 4-something other, here we is in October now. And I would really like to try to get some resolution on it. I have a 21-year clean arrest record. That's a life sentence. And I would really like my good name and reputation back. I've been fighting these, I call it trumped-up charges. I haven't broken the law. These charges are getting dismissed one by one by one. But at the end of the day, Mr. Joseph Young of the Smithfield Police Department, when I did get downtown to our detention center, he ordered that they continue their assault on me, and they did. I was assaulted by a male guard inside the Johnson County Jailhouse by the name of Mr. Johnson, and I also spoke with Mr. Carson. I then spoke with Ms. Griffin. I think what I'm really here for tonight is to see if I can get my State Bureau investigation involved, since I was assaulted inside a government facility. And I do have proof of my injuries. I did a daily ledger while I was there, and I was forced to lay on the steel frame. I have 6, 7, 8, 10, and 17 compressed fractures in my spine. I have medication in my bag. When I did get released, I had to go see Emerge Orthopedics, and they gave me spasm medicine where I spaz out in my abdomen and land on that steel frame 6x19, and I was actually choked by the male guard while I was in the one before they moved them to the new facility. I nearly lost my life, and so my family and I would like for State Bureau to be called in at this time, and Miss Susan Doyle seems to be dragging her feet, and Mr. James Sittich got a promotion out of the deal. So now when I go to court, I'm not asking nobody to do anything but call State Bureau in, because I want to investigate it more thoroughly. So I would appreciate it by the next council board meeting if y'all could get up with Miss Susan Doyle and Mr. Rick Hoffman. I do have an attorney, and he's doing an excellent job, but I want Mr. Rick Hoffman to do his job and do an investigation, but morally importantly, I want State Bureau called in. My family and I have been put in hardship behind this matter, and I would like to get resolution.
So Ms. Speaker, or you're just, we are over 3 minutes, but just so that I'm understanding, are you saying that these incidents happened at the county courthouse, at the jail where you were, is that correct? By county jailers, I guess, or whomever, I don't know.
Well, by the male jailer, yeah, but these officers came into my private residence without a warrant, and that has tarnished my name and good reputation in the community. As I say, I have a 21-year clean arrest record, and I want my good name and reputation back. I was placed up on a $100,000 bond on malarkey.
Gotcha. So kind of two different things, right? When Smithfield Police went to your residence, entered your residence, and what you're saying,
drugged me out.
Without, okay, and then the other issues are what happened after you got it. Okay, all right.
But I would appreciate if somebody could, Miss Susan Doyle is elected. And like I keep asking her, I don't want her to do nothing but call state bureau because I want a resolution for these issues.
Sure. So, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I know you mentioned you have an attorney, right? As far as the police, Smithfield PD, we can certainly look into that. And we do have a new chief now who's sitting right back here, and we can get that information and look into that certain instance, right?
Yes,
So
sir, I
that we
appreciate
certainly
that.
do that. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, anyone else wishing to speak? Here in this- Well, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Denise Rangel at 313 South 4th Street, and I have some pictures. So the reason why I'm here, my house was flooded back-to-back in the month of August 15th and 27th. So I know I'm not the only one to bring up this concern about the storm drains. So is there any updates that will be made?
So, I'm sorry, so your question is,
Will there be any updates to the storm drains?
any,
I know I had a gentleman come over to the house September 22nd, and he had mentioned that he wanted to go to the backyard to check out the storm drain because there would be some updates.
where's this property? You said 4th Street?
Yes.
Is where it is? And when did you purchase that?
I purchased this home last year in May.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that area has
It
flooded
has
many
a
times
history.
before you purchased that, right? It has a big, and it is in the floodway, yeah. In fact, it was flooded right before you probably purchased it.
The
'Cause
last
I
flooding
knew
was in
the previous, I
2019.
knew the previous resident,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
I'll look into
Yeah.
doing that. And we've got your address and so
Yes,
forth.
address,
so
phone
we
number,
can
and
follow up.
email. And it's just strange, you know, because we've been rain for days before in the last year, and then just a normal storm. It flooded rapidly.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. If you will, can I see that real quick? That's fine. If you will, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Pam Lampy at 415 North 2nd Street. Tonight, I asked the Town Council and Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation to table plans for a social drinking district in Smithfield. There are so many unanswered questions regarding this proposal. In fact, I have not received any written responses to my 11 questions from the September council meeting from the town nor DSDC. We need to set up a task force of interested and affected parties from our community on the pros and cons of the issue. The task force should include members of the community, affected neighborhoods, local churches, mental health professionals, police, ABC permit holders, downtown business owners, and others to participate. This idea comes from nearby Clayton. According to Patrick Pierce, Clayton's economic coordinator, Clayton's task force will make a presentation to him and the Downtown Development Corporation about what their consensus is, and then they will proceed. They are also bringing in speakers and legal counsel for their council members to consider. This social drinking district proposal needs much more logical thought and consideration by everyone involved before we proceed. The citizens of Smithfield deserve no less. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lampy. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? State your name and address, please.
Temple Elizabeth Ann, 904 Chestnut Drive, Smithfield. Just wanted to talk a little bit about Johnston County, and I brought the Johnston County flag. I want to say that I love Johnston County and no plans to ever leave Johnston County again or Smithfield. It's named for Governor Gabriel Johnston, who signed legislation creating Johnston out of Craven. My grandmother was a teacher in Pine Level and taught the Honorable Will Rogers Crocker. He's also a friend of mine. He's Order of the Longleaf Pine noted, and our former longtime clerk of court. She taught him when he was in the 6th grade. My grandmother did. The Meadow Township Christmas lights display, the churches in former Jerome, now named Micro, and Boone Hill, now named Princeton, Wilson's Mills, and so much more in our other towns. They are all full of history. My father grew up in Selma. My Parker Revolutionary War relatives are buried in Kinley on Old Beulah Road, beautiful place in Johnston County. As a supporter of the artwork of Four Oaks residents, and their seasonal wooden yard stakes too, and as a former choir director and organist in Benson, for 7 years, I see a lot of the county and often. Johnston County has a lot of spirit. Smithfield is home to our Heritage Center and Museum, as well as the Board of Elections. Smithfield is the county seat and where I was born. The community college is one of the best in the state, and I took a few courses there in the summers during college that I was allowed to transfer to my university. Everywhere you look, you find parks for children to play in and theaters to support drama and dance, including our new amphitheater. Johnston County is accepting to all people. We are good and loving people. Near the state capital of Raleigh, we are close to many events that the state of North Carolina hosts. Johnston County, instead of JOCO, to honor and preserve a historic county that we are blessed to have since 1746. Let us work together as one to make it even better along our way and path, and through our purpose to make every person feel as lucky to be here as I do today, and so many others, including an African-American farmer near the community college who sells his watermelons and vegetables from his roadside truck, and who smiles all of the time, and who is blessed and is a blessing to others. The Johnston County motto on its flag is Nunquam non paratus, which means never unprepared. Thank you for including me in historic preservation for the town of Smithfield. I'm enjoying it. I'd like to donate the flag.
Thank you, Ms. Temple. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Stuart Lee. I live at 825 South 2nd Street. I want to talk about painting lines. I'm just joking. I wasn't going to speak, but I saw the line about chicken houses and keeping chickens in town limits. And I just wanted to let you know that urban agriculture outpaced regularly for the past 5 years the microbrewery industry. Urban agriculture is growing fast in Johnston County, and it's related to keeping chickens. As you consider the ordinance, please also consider looking at urban agriculture infrastructure in an urban area. For the past couple of years, I've regularly sent opportunities to apply for the town of Smithfield to apply for Urban Act grants that actually come across my desk. There'll be another round coming up at the beginning of the year. There's an implementation grant where you could actually use that to hire someone to manage an urban ag program. It's usually around the development process is $100,000 to $200,000 a year for 3 years. And after that, you can apply to actually start the program, which is between $200,000 to $400,000 a year for 3 years. So I say all that to say, as you're considering the ordinance for keeping chickens, look at it as something bigger than just having some chickens. You could address food desert issues, child hunger. The gentleman that she talked about selling fresh fruits and vegetables right out of the, you have the opportunity to build a much bigger system than what we have right now, which is nothing. On 210, we have the Ag Center, and I would also recommend when you're looking at the ordinance to bring them into the table as well, especially when it comes to looking at GAP certifications, so that if someone is raising chickens, maybe they could actually sell those eggs at a local restaurant or even put it in schools. I mean, just think of the amount of money you could make inside city limits with urban ag or rooftop infrastructures. And those grants, again, beginning of the year, I'll send it again, but it's not a hard application process. But please include me in the conversation. That's it. It just came up. I wanted to pass along. Urban ag is growing very, very fast, and there's a lot of money that could be made right here in Smithfield off of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come forward. All right, not seeing anyone, we'll move now to the consent agenda. Excuse me. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now move on to our business items, now at 9 o'clock. Consideration and request for approval to award a bid to LJB Incorporated in the amount of $171,380 for Phase 2 of the CSX I-95 construction project. Bill? I guess that's you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. As you all know, the town received a $950,000 appropriation initially to cover the cost of the flooding issue that we have been working on for several years with the undersized CSX culverts off Brightleaf. That appropriation was to cover the engineering, permitting, and construction of an additional 2 48-inch pipes up underneath CSX to alleviate the flooding that we saw, particularly in the previous hurricanes. However, we included in the scope of work a hydraulic analysis, something that we would typically do. We have to look downstream. So if we're going to take that water that's being held behind on the upstream side of the CSX culvert, or CSX railroad, and put new culverts in and release that water, we have to know where it's going to go and make sure it doesn't have an adverse impact on downstream properties. Well, in fact, because through that study, we found that it would have an adverse impact. In a 25-year storm event, adding the 2 culverts under CSX would lower the floodwaters upstream of the railroad by 1.1 feet. So that have a very positive impact on those properties that flooded. However, it would also raise the floodwaters by almost 1.5 feet in the area between I-95 and the railroad. So looking at that, our consultant evaluated those downstream areas and determined that a 72-inch additional culvert under I-95 would be needed to get all of that water that caused the flooding was being stored under the railroad, under I-95, and into an area where it could safely reach the river and not impact downstream properties. With, let's see, on a 25-year storm with the 248s and the culvert under I-95, we would lower floodwaters upstream of the railroad by 1.5 feet, and we would lower floodwaters in the area from I-95 back to the railroad by 1.1 feet. So when we identified that, that means we've got a whole nother design contract that needs to be done, and we have a whole nother construction project. So we looked at the costs of both, determined we were about $1.1 million shy based on the initial appropriation, and requested additional funds. Per my understanding, the additional funds that we requested were included in this past budget as an appropriation. So we now have $2,050,000 in appropriated funds for this project, and enough to cover both the I-95 section and the CSX culvert and relieve the flooding in that entire area. So what we're bringing before you is a modification, well, a new contract with LJB, who's doing this work for us, to do the design, engineering, and permitting of an additional 72-inch culvert under I-95, including construction administration. We are moving forward, we haven't stopped moving forward on the CSX portion. That's at about 80% complete, that design. That's been a challenge. I think it took us almost 6 months to receive a right of entry permit from CSX. Not that that was a surprise based on our history with CSX, but that project is moving forward. We're, as I said, my last review was at about an 80% design completion. There's a couple small issues that that our consultant is trying to work out with CSX. They wanted our contractor, when we go to construction, to handle the soil borings. Well, if we don't have the soil boring information, how they want us to present the shoring that's required for the bore and jack, they're trying to come to an agreement on what they want to see in the design specs. But as I said, that should be wrapped up hopefully in the next couple of months. But we have to do the I-95 additional 72-inch first, or we're gonna cause damage to the downstream properties. So what we're bringing before you tonight is this new contract with LJB for the additional 72-inch culvert under I-95, so we can proceed.
One thing, just for
Yes, sir.
clarification. When you
Yes, sir.
said approved in the budget, you mean approved in the state budget?
The state
for
budget.
next month,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make that clear.
My
That's not
apologies.
Our approval, but the state.
That's correct.
Awarded us that for the project.
A state appropriation, yes, sir. Thank you for the correction.
Any questions for Bill at this time?
One other thing, you mentioned this 95 project would have to be done first, obviously to avoid the flooding in between the railroad and 95. How long will that, since we've already started the study on the CSX part, I know that study will still be good, but how long will it delay the project getting started now that there's a new phase that has to be completed, has to be designed and then completed before we can do the CSX?
My answer to your question is going to be that I have already reached out to our consultant, LGB, and asked them for an updated schedule. It will certainly have an impact. I mean, I think it could add 6 to 12 months to the project, honestly. But I've asked our consultant to provide me with an updated schedule, and when I obtain that, I'll provide it to the manager, and he can circulate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the request. I don't see we have a choice, really. We're going to fix the flooding, so I recommend, I would move that we approve it.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the bid to LJB Incorporated in the amount of $171,380 for Phase 2. A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, our next business item is consideration and request for approval to adopt ordinance number 519-2023, amending the Town of Smithfield's Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Chapter 11, Article 2, noise. So
All right.
here we are again.
Yes, it's the same issue as the last one, although noise is covered specifically in the Code of Ordinances, which is outside of zoning, so this is just a cleanup so that the two ordinances are correct. So in the draft ordinance, we got some language in red, which I'm going to recommend, based on the conversation and the ordinance you just approved, a slight modification. So right now, it says the use of operation of any radio, loudspeaker, other instrument, or sound or amplifying device within a building or motor vehicle in a manner that disrupts or interferes unnecessarily with individuals' enjoyment of their property. This is a definition. The town council, however, may permit musical programs, speeches, or general entertainment as an exception to this provision for limited time periods. And I'm adding, with your permission and approval, and the town manager or his designee may permit musical programs, speeches, or general entertainment as an exception to this provision for limited time periods, and I want to add Monday through Friday, no later than 9 p.m. when the events are within a town park, or 10 p.m. if associated with the town commons amphitheater.
Or Monday through Saturday.
But it's a Saturday, right?
But, yeah, sorry.
Okay. Any questions on this one? think it's basically just a
Yep.
cleanup. I will say that if you do decide to vote in the affirmative on this update, that it will require a two-thirds majority on the first reading, because it is an ordinance update, right? All right, any further questions? If not, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve the ordinance number 5192023, amending the Code of Ordinance Part 2, Chapter 11, Article 2, as it pertains to noise, allowing the town manager or his designee to permit amplified sound as an exception to the prohibited noise when associated with musical programs, speech, or general entertainment in the town parks, commons, amphitheater, Monday through Saturday.
No later than 9 PM for the parks or 10 PM with,
Thank you.
yeah.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That's just-
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on now to business item number 3. Consideration and request for approval to create a new position, community service aide in the police department. Chief, welcome, sir. Come right on up. You want to come to this one? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can.
You're part of town now.
Thank you very much. This proposal is for a public safety aid. The state just authorized civilian personnel to work motor vehicle crashes where there's no injury. For the last 2 months, I pulled our statistics, and we're averaging about 70 crashes, with only maybe 16 to 15 of those having injuries. So this will eliminate a lot of the call volume for our police officers or sworn officers that can go out and better suit themselves for more, ones where we need a law enforcement officer with a gun toter to do this. So this position will be a non-sworn position. Their uniform will be markedly different than our police officers. They'll drive a different vehicle. The position, we're going to be able to fund the car from a prior insurance payment that we had. So that's what we're looking to. I think it'll really just free up my officers to be able to do a little bit more police work.
You said this is for non-injury?
They can't.
Non-injury
Yes, sir. And
accidents.
then we're also going to be able to use this officer for crime scene personnel. There'll be a public service aid, so anything we need from the police department. So crime scene, and then they'll also help in the evidence room.
Could they enforce parking violations?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sold.
What type of, okay, I'm sorry, what type of training certifications are they going to be required to have?
The state requires them to pass a training program that they just put out. It's a 40-hour, either a 40-hour or a 32-hour program that they have to pass to be able to understand how to do the crash investigations. Then they have a 4-week ride-along with an officer that works crashes, and then we can give them all the additional training that we can find within the state.
Is there age limit?
Through the state now, I believe anything over 18, but
So they
I'm not
take-
sure.
Well, the reason why I'm asking, because, I'm in charge of high school programs and law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
One of the things, and one of our biggest deals with law enforcement is you had to be 21 to get a job. This gives them an opportunity, we've been asking for a long time, opportunity for our students to go somewhere, instead of having that bridge to nowhere. If you got a high school, you got to wait 2 years. It becomes difficult, so we've been pursuing private security certifications. But this would be possible. Can you provide me some of that information?
I will,
See if
sir.
we might be able to modify some of our high school courses to provide those opportunities for our students to come out with these types of certifications right out of high school. That'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Big need, by the way.
Chief, just to clarify, you said 70 wrecks, was that per month?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I assume this officer would have, be trained, I know you said training, right? And I'm assuming that's on the investigation process or whatever, but I'm assuming also we would provide some training as well from a communication standpoint, and they would have communications, because sometimes there may not be an injury at an accident, but it could get heated pretty quickly. And I don't want to put those people who are not thoroughly trained in a situation that could escalate quickly without some type of
communication. I'm sure there is, but they'll be properly trained to utilize that so that they could get help there quickly. I'm
Yes, sir.
assuming.
They'll have an FTO program, just much shorter, and train for the job task analysis that we provide lists all their requirements. One of them is knowing how to operate our vehicle, know how to operate the radio, know how to operate our computers. We are going to require them to wear a bullet-resistant vest just because they are going to be out there. There could be some confrontation. They cannot carry any type of weapons, but they will be outfitted with probably mace would be the one thing that they would carry.
And then one other question, since they'll have access to our computers, I'm sure they will only have access to certain files, right? They're not sworn officers, so they will not have access to
Just like any of
things
our
that
other,
investigation, you know what I'm talking
just
about.
like any of our other civilian employees, they have to
Gotcha.
go through DCI training, and they have to go through the certification.
Would this be a 8 to 5 job? What would the hours be on this?
I think we're going to look at our needs and our crashes and our statistics where they're at. We'd like to have one on each side, but primarily Monday through Friday is what we're looking for.
And when you looked at the crashes, I don't know if you dove into a time frame for each. Did you go that far? or not?
Typically what you would expect, the morning rush and the evening rush.
And did you say there were grants or possible grants for this, or?
Not that I'm aware of. This program is brand new in the state. There was 2 pilot programs, and we've talked to Fayetteville, was one of them, and they've run it for almost a year and a half with great success. It just takes a lot of the burden off your uniformed personnel.
And then budgetary standpoint, Mike?
Yeah, there won't be any problem this year because
Especially
of the
with the
shortages that we
existing
have.
officers, but if we were to, just want to make sure the council understands, right? If we were fully staffed.
You're adding a
it'd be-
new
You would
position.
add a brand-new position at whatever, 37 to possibly $58,000. That could have an impact to the budget. Right.
That's correct.
The cars, yeah, we're short, so there's cars available.
Yes, sir.
Would they be allowed to be part of the take-home car program?
I haven't discussed it with the town manager. Since there's going to be 2 of them, I think it would probably for me to be within the town limits if they live there, that they could respond. Where we would need them is maybe at a crime scene. If we had, after their normal hours, we could call them in, but to take it home, I really haven't thought of it that way.
What if they get to an accident and somebody needs to get a ticket? They gonna call an officer to,
Yes, sir.
in other words, they just gonna investigate? Will they go to court if it has to go to court?
Yes, sir. The state statute provision allows that their accidents are considered the same way as an officer's are.
So of those 55 or so that were not injured within an accident, how many, do you have the data showing how many tickets were issued?
No, sir, I don't. I got our total number of tickets, but I don't know which one they went to or not.
Well, I guess my point is, if he or she was to get there and a ticket needs to be issued, are we really taking away from,
I think
are
that,
we really helping them instead of,
I think the majority of the accidents they will work will probably be under $1,000, and they'll be the small parking lot crashes that still take up our time. I would imagine where the sergeant would be overseeing them when they worked. If it was a lot of property damage or multi-vehicles that would require extensive interview or investigations, officer would still go.
So, Chief, could we utilize this without a full-time position and use this as part-time so we're not having to pay full benefits and retirement and everything? I don't know. I'm asking the question. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I believe the need, because we're going to use it for so many other things. We currently don't have anybody to assist with crime scene. If we have an extensive crime scene, it's the detectives, which we're short at now. I believe this opens us up to a whole nother avenue of hiring where we can get a person and bring them in and see if they work well for us as a police department, especially at the younger age, so we can have a little bit more access to a different hiring field. So I think because of the number of crashes we work, the other jobs that we're going to assign to them, the parking violations, the crime scene, and the evidence tech, I think we'll be able to keep them busy for a full-time position.
will this be a bench strength for you to try and get them BLT
BLET.
BLET certified?
We've talked about it in-house.
What's the end game here? You gonna
I believe it can be a standalone position itself, but I think it's also a great stopgap. If we come across a person that we'd say, we'd really like to hire you for a police officer, but we don't have a BLET program starting for 3 months, then we can hold them in that position. That way, if we can get a really good candidate, we can have them, we can pay them, get work out of them until we're ready to go to BLET.
That's what my goal would be, to try to help, you know,
Yes, sir.
keep
I believe it could be worked that way.
keep bench strength up.
Yes, sir.
But I tell you, I know for a fact that if this program does what I think it can do, we can change our high school program and we can produce over 2,000 students a year being able to meet the qualifications to come into these programs. And that's been our biggest problem with law enforcement, providing law enforcement, because they, after 2 years out of high school, they've already found other careers. They've done something else.
Yes,
Now you're struggling to find people to do those jobs. That's why we've been struggling to try to, and that's where the biggest, working with the law enforcement community, and I say, what can I do? I said, I tell them, create a job that they can get. Here's a job they can get. So I think I can sell this. Give me the information, we can do it. And then you can have, I mean, we can get, you have a pick of your litter
Yes, sir.
of good quality. That'll already have law enforcement training and private security training. And private security training benefits them because they don't have any weapons. They can't use weapons, but they have to know how to handle situations.
Yes, sir.
And that would be something beneficial. So, I mean, I think we can help you out on that too. So I don't think it's a great idea.
So my question about the parking, I guess, would fall, I'm looking at the job description, would fall under other related duties as assigned?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the request.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And your first presentation, a win. 1 for 1. Nice job. All right, we'll move on now to business item number 4 that we added. Discuss our yearly paving project. Yeah. Mike, do you need Lawrence as well? Lawrence, if you will.
Yeah, as Lawrence is making his way up, Council, you should have in front of you recommendation for street resurfacing project outside of the main area of Outlet Center Drive, as kind of went back and forth in some emails earlier this week. So I'll let Lawrence discuss that with you.
Okay. Currently, we have a position where the council in 22, we had 14 streets that were done. And because we did not have enough money in the Power Bill budget, we had to roll that money off for 2022 and 23. So that funds were now rolled over. And at that time, I think we were saying that either we wanted to pave the Outlet Center Drive or that we wanted to establish new streets that we wanted to carry on and to do as well. I did get a spec survey from Garris Paving on the Outlet Center Drive. It would probably be roughly around $700,000 to complete that Outlet Center Drive, and that will go from the stoplight there all the way to the Selma line, and that will complete the whole 9. What I recommend is that we do is we tear that down, we mill the street down, we put two inches of asphalt there to replace that because we have got so many complaints in that Outlet Center Drive about potholes, streets rutting, and aggregates that are coming apart and tearing apart the roads. That is that recommendation. Or we can take and do 14 other streets. I've heard some of the councilmen's requests and concerns, especially in Sussex Street. Some of the things that I saw, some of the streets that were in worse conditions that I looked and I saw and I said, we can put on the list and we can do those streets. Those streets will entail of got the list here. Blunt Street, East Street, Second Ave, Hope Street, Vermont Street, East Wilson, Bradford, Brookwood, Sussex, Toll Bridge. What you got?
Isn't this the streets that you?
Yeah, no, I don't think it is.
Money Mead. Oh, you know what? This was done last year. I'm sorry. If I gave you that wrong information, I'm sorry.
Stuff you have in front of you.
I do apologize. I'm sorry about that. I typed out the wrong information, but I do have the streets here.
So what we have in front of us is what?
It is incorrect, and that was my fault. I should have said it. That is the correct street. That is the one. All right, and that was my fault. I do apologize about that. I had the streets looking it up.
How much money do we have?
Did we pave these?
How much money do we have?
We have $279,593 in our power bill currently.
So, just for clarification.
Sure.
So, do you have this list that was given to us?
I do have that list. I'm sorry, she's gonna print out
No,
some.
this list that was given to us, do you have that in front of you?
I do have it.
So, what is the status of these streets?
These streets are complete and done.
These are paved?
Yeah, these are paved.
Every one of these on this list are
Yes, sir,
paved?
these are paved. Yes,
That,
yes.
except for
Except the Outlet Center Drive.
That was my question.
Yeah, these are all
Because I was
paved.
trying to, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was like, well, if we haven't paved these, why
No.
are we getting new ones?
No. We have paved those. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was just
Perfect.
my,
All right, outstanding. Thank you.
So while we're waiting
Sure.
on that list, typically, there's a time frame when we can and can't have paving done.
Right.
I know there was some discussion.
Correct.
About talking with Selma, trying to get a bigger contract to save some money.
that is correct.
So when was the last paving done?
The last paving was done and sometimes I think it was last June, July.
22.
22,
22.
right.
To do it around summertime.
So we did it during the summertime, yep.
So did we do anything for the fiscal year ending 2023?
Well, we didn't do anything because what happened was the 14 streets were, as you recall, they were over the budget. So what you guys did was, we did it phases. You did phase 1, and then you did phase 2. So technically, that phase 2 did go into that 23 term.
So do we have 2 years' worth of power bill money, or did we eventually use up that money?
We used 193,000 of that money on this phase 2, I believe.
Still got some of last year's money left.
As far as
You have the Powell bill budget this year, which is $355,000, but that doesn't just go to road resurfacing, it goes to a few other things as well. And it's actually closer to 357 is what was
Thank you.
released
I'm sorry,
from the
thank you.
state recently. But we also have an additional 320,000 that's been carried over from previous times, monies that haven't been spent in the Powell bill.
And
Carries over year to year.
the extra admin fees, have they already been taken care of out of the 320? So is that really 320 to spend, or is that?
You have, I don't have the budget in front of me, you have about 270, I think, to spend
Out of the 320?
out of the 350, 357.
Okay, you said 270.
279,593.
Yeah, the 279 would be
79.
what is used for
573.
the
75, 73?
$279,593.
thing.
And.
The rest of
and
it
the
goes to
320?
ancillary stuff. You have an additional 320 still in the budget that's been carried over.
But all the other stuff has already been paid out, so 320's left? Or is
No.
320 still got other?
You have two pots of money.
engineering?
You have two pots of money. You have the money that just got approved today in the budget. That's 357,000 coming to you, but not all of that goes to resurface.
Right, 270.
And then you have about 350,000 that has been carried over from previous years that hasn't been spent.
So we got.
And that money, you could spend all of it if you wanted to.
We've roughly got right at 600,000 now.
Right at 600.
Pretty close.
So will that do all these streets and some, or just these streets?
I'm sorry, Councilman, I couldn't understand what you said.
The $600,000 we have, will it do these streets and something else or just these streets?
Well, until we get a bid, we're not sure.
Right,
No, Outlet Center Drive is gonna cost you $700,000.
right,
alone.
just alone.
That's a loan.
We're on a different list, though. Outlet's not on this list.
No, but that's just something we've not done. We kicked that can down the road. It's in desperate need. Desperate need.
Yeah, but town Smithfield citizens need it too.
But Smithfield Town citizens ride that road too, because I ride that road all the time. That's where we go eat, go buy Chick-fil-A. I mean, our Smithfield Town citizens ride that road a lot, and it's pretty bad shape. I drive that road more than I drive, Holt Street or Bradford Street, or, I don't drive those streets myself. That doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with those streets.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing wrong with that, but I'm simply saying, we're talking about, nobody drive the Outlet Drive is Town Smithfield will be driving it too.
My recommendation, I would much rather see us, at this point, go towards residential streets than Outlet Center Drive. And let's continue to work with our representatives on grants and so forth to see if there's maybe a possibility that we might be able to get some additional fundings for that area. I understand what you're saying. That's you. We've got a lot of citizens that drive these residential neighborhoods, right, and constantly. Not saying that a lot of our citizens don't go on Outlet Center Drive, but I dare to say that over 50% who utilize that road are not Smithfield citizens. They're either out of state or out of Smithfield.
But they're eating at our restaurants, they're paying a lot of our bills.
No, don't disagree with you at all.
So I'm just saying, but I will say, let me concede the fact that the odds of getting outside people to pay for our residential streets are nowhere near
There you go.
possibility of putting the pressure on them to provide for that high economic area of the town.
And that's my point.
I understand that point. That's a
And
valid
that's what I'm
point.
trying to say. Yeah,
That's a valid,
my
I can agree with
that's
that
my
valid point.
That's why I would recommend us going with residential for the monies that we have now, and then we continue to seek additional revenue for Outlet Center Drive. Not that Outlet Center Drive's not
No.
important, and it absolutely does need to be. I mean, it is in bad condition, but I would recommend that we go with residential for these monies, and we continue to work on seeking additional funds for Outlet Center Drive. That's my personal recommendation.
It'd be nice if DOT would take that road back over.
If we get it back up, they might. Who knows? Get it back up to standards. You never know.
Have the talks with Selma Public Works yielded any?
I have talked to the Selma Public Works, Craig Tyner. He just recently acquired that seat. But I was talking to the former director there, Ben. He was trying to get some things together, but I think he resigned from that position. So Craig and myself, we were talking about, could we come together? And it's still put on a possibility on the table that we could work together. And that's a meeting that we're going to have soon. I talked to him. It's my recommendation, if we do the 14 streets, to keep it the way that we've been doing it in the May times, to bid them out in May. We can do it now. If we were to go independently and say, all right, we can do it in October, I can set that up. But street resurfacing, it takes at least 50-degree weather or better when it comes down to putting asphalt down. And, you don't want to put asphalt down, then it snows and it rains, and you got the elements that just breaking down the asphalt that we just put down. Mm-hmm. So it's my recommendation, if we were to do the 14 streets, that, see if that'll give us time to see if Selma can do anything to work with us. And if they can't, then we'll just go ahead and pull the trigger on our own and say, hey, we've got these 14 streets, let's get it done.
Just a question.
Sure.
If, I'm assuming most towns wait until the spring to do their
Sure,
paving.
sure.
So if it was able to be done now and we had decent weather, which nobody knows how quick it can turn
True.
in the cold weather, is it possible it'd be cheaper now to do it now? Or is it possible we wait and hope petroleum prices drop and drives asphalt back?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Yeah, the reality is we won't know until we bid it out. We can bid it out, see what we get. If it's too much, we don't have to follow through with the bid. But if the council truly wants to try to get a paving project in this fall, we've already had doodle polls out trying to find another meeting in October, and we haven't had much luck with that. So the council can authorize the manager to accept the low responsible bidder. We can publicize this for 7 days. Once we get the bids in, we can move forward right away and probably still get the paving project done this year. I can keep the council apprised of what we're doing and how we're doing it. But if you really want to do it this year, about the only way is to step back a little bit and allow me the latitude to approve the contract.
Go for it.
Within that budget that we've got, within the money that we've got.
Yes,
Yep, so we get as far as we can get.
yes,
Yep, based on this priority.
yes.
Yep.
That being said, I guess I'd like to make a motion to allow the manager, with his discretion at low bid, to bid out the contract for the listed residential streets.
Sure.
And we go from there, knowing, well, I'll end the motion there.
Have a motion to,
Make sure you put within the
Do I-
budget constraint that
With-
we've got now. Go as far as
Right,
you
right,
can.
well, yes.
Second.
okay, have a motion and a second to,
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question before you call the vote, just real quick, if you
yes,
don't
sir.
mind?
Yes, sir.
This has actually been going all the way back since when Lenny was here. I asked the same question. I kind of heard Lawrence, we talk about the streets. I heard Lawrence say, we put the streets on the list. And then I know back when Lenny was here, I know we talked about there was some kind of formula that we used. So I'm just kind of, what what streets are we actually using?
Well, there is a study that was done in 2017 on Withers and Ravenel that we have, and they outlaid the streets as far as the formats, the streets that are on list, that's poor condition, whether they were in poor, good condition, or fair. According to the list, that's what I try to go through. But I did ask the town manager could I drive around, take a scope, see the scenery, see what streets are in worse condition since that Ravenel report. And there have been some streets that were on the list that were, that were scheduled on the list, but there were some streets that I said, okay, this street's in a little worse condition, so I need to add to the list. And it was only a few streets, but the Sussex streets was added, the Toll Bridge was added, and I believe the Vermont streets were added. But some of the other streets were already there on the list, and what we did was just say, okay, these streets are terrible. They're not passable, they're definitely not drivable, so that's why I substituted those. It is, it is my responsibility. I want to see all the streets get done. Trust me, I don't like to see the streets in the worst condition they're in. And I'm just really trying to, really look and survey and get the ones that's priority right now.
And what does the numbers mean? What does from?
Well, that's from the blocks, from 1,000 block to the 1,009 block. So it could be either a block, and then you can see 52. It could be an address from house 52 to house 59, according to the Withers and Ravenel street report they gave me. So that's what I try to do. I try to keep it as accurate, and I try to complete the streets like North Street. North Street, if you know, North Street will be paid all the way through this time. So we're going straight through the streets. We're not skipping any streets. We try to do as much as we can to make sure that, hey, once we start a street, we'll end that street and go all the way.
Yeah.
And that's what we did on East Street. If you notice, we did East Street. We did that the year before last and the year before that last. So we only got that last piece to tie in on East Street. So those streets will be completed.
And they look better that way.
Yeah, they do. They really do. Instead of jumping from here to here to here to here, start and then keep going.
Yeah, instead of a
So
50-foot section.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of looking at, numbers 1 through 6, and then 12 through 14. I know you start with 2 through 6. Most of those are 800 through 899. 200, 299, but the first one, Blunt Street, which is not spelled right, it's just 1,009. So it's just like.
That looks like it's a little segment.
Huh?
Talking about that looks like a tiny segment.
That's all.
Well, I'll correct the Blunt Street. I'll get that right. As far as the blocks, I mean, it's just that residential area as far as like if it starts at that 1,000 block and it goes all the way to wherever that ends, it could be 30 feet, it could be 100 feet, wherever that block ends, and that's where we're going to the end of that particular block.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think that is everything that we added. Is that correct? All right, we'll now move on to council members' comments. Remember having comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I got a few myself. I just want to back up to the beginning of the meeting because it felt like, and this is not the only incident, but it felt like I've been thrown under the bus over a situation, over a former employee who went and worked somewhere else, addressed me on social media, humiliated me, whatever. That's, oh well, because he was gone. Ended up trying to threaten me to come to his place. I took out an informal complaint on him at his now agency. A lawyer told me to just wait off on getting him for communicating threats. It all stems from, I've been talking to the July incident. Mr. Mark Lane was there that involved a citizen and some police officers. So I was bringing the video in to Captain Grady. As I was getting ready to leave out that day, I asked Saul B in there, and I asked him who this gentleman was because I didn't really recognize him. He told me exactly who he was. So he was trying to come back part-time. So I immediately came over here and talked to the town manager, showed him the video, showed him pretty much everything that was said about me. Yesterday, I get a phone call from this individual saying that I am the reason now why he's not getting a job. Professionally, I don't think the information should have been shared with him. And I would like to know pretty much why. Why was it shared? Either coming from the town manager or coming from our police chief. And about an hour ago, he sent me another text.
I'm not aware of that information being shared outside of the chief and I.
Did you tell him, Chief?
You talked about had come to us when you were there, and I was made aware that there was an issue. I had told him not that you were the sole reason or any of the main reason that he was not hired, but that the position was not available to him because it just didn't seem like a good move for us at that time. I did not use your name. He knew the situation before I even brought it up. So he was well aware of it. So he asked me, and I said that the situation was just not a good move for the town of Smithfield. That's what I told him. But he did know your name because he understands exactly what I think brought it up.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else? Or Marlon, do you have?
I'm not finished. Anybody else want to go?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Here again, this is some of this backdoor stuff, and it seems like I'm the one been thrown under the bus. But that's not what he communicated to me, but I just want to make sure it's out there, because he did it to himself. About 2 weeks ago, we lost an icon in Smithfield. Definitely one of my mentors. I grew up with his son, Mr. Jackie Bryant, and he was funeralized, worked on time with the Parks and Rec or whatever. I just hope, we can be able to do something in his honor. I want to get with the family. He did a lot at Smith Collins Park, feeding the kids, back to school stuff, and, hopefully, in talking to the family, whatever they want to do, hopefully, we can just be able to change the community, the fund in the park, we call it the Jackie Bryant Community Day. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out. But even though in doing so, he was very instrumental in getting a sign placed on the concession stand out there at Smith Collins Park. That sign was damaged. It was taken down. I had conversation with Gary early June that another sign was ordered. It was going to be placed up there. Here it is, October, and it's still not up there. Do we have an update on the sign? Is Mr. Johnson still here?
I talked with Mike Fleming, I hadn't talked to him lately, he was trying to find the information for that sign, the park lot for it.
All right, I'm done for now.
Just a couple things kind of about the street resurfacing. I think this town and the county owe a big thanks to our state legislators and State Senator Representative Strickland and Senator Sari, who worked hard to secure $6 million for this town to do a project like Mr. Bill brought to us, and a long list of other projects that involve upgrading our water and sewer and stormwater issues that we have and the rest of the county has. I think the county's getting about 18 million total, so without the hard work of our state legislators, that would have just gone to Charlotte or Raleigh. And kind of to wrap up what we were talking about on this, so everybody understands, Outlet Center Drive is a great economic center for our town and county, but unfortunately, the way county taxes are distributed, everyone else seems to get a little more of that than we do based on population. So that's why we're always a little apprehensive. We want to take care of our citizens first. And then we're prodding our state guys to try to find some economic money to help us pave that road. So it may end up falling on our hands, but I guess we'll just kick it down till next year. But we are aware that is an awful road. I rode down it this afternoon. So anyways, I just appreciate everybody's work on that.
Would I remind everybody is on the manager's report, though, we are having our third annual drone fly-in day on Saturday. A lot of stuff going on in town of Smithfield on Saturday, a lot of exciting things going on. So while you're out there doing some of those things, or before some of those other things get started, ours will be from 10 till 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. We do have the Drone Racing League. They've been promoting it, so we'll see what they do there. On the field, we also have some students coming to fly. We have facilities out there already for our drone flying for testing purposes. And we also have our new fire chief has been working with us to try to get the emergency management people out there. Emergency management people from the county will be there with their drone. And he's been working with I don't know if you got confirmation yet for the police department in Clayton that uses a drone. They have drones and have them there for demonstration purposes also. So we should have a good group of people there. It'll be an exciting time. Roger's not going to be in town, so he's thankful. It's in his backyard, so you don't want to see it. But it'll be from 10 to 1 o'clock, and we look forward to everybody. It's supposed to be a beautiful day, so I hope you can come and bring your. If you got any kids that's interested. Oh, one other thing, I submitted and got approval. You won't know what it means. That's okay if anybody's listening; they don't understand. We submitted a request to make that field a FRIA, which is an area that you can fly without drones that have radio IDs. There's the requirement that makes them all have it. That field is now an approved FRIA area. So that means people can go fly their drones there in that vicinity without having the older drones that don't have the radio IDs, as long as they fly on that field. That's important. And so we did get that done. So we're excited about that. Good things going. Come out and be part of it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I do want to just piggyback on what Councilman Lee said. We did lose a dear friend in Jackie Bryant. I first met Jackie probably when I was 9 or 10. I played for him in youth league basketball. He always joked I was the only player I ever played for that could brick a layup. So I did. But I would like to see, I know we got the Bryant Merit Award, I think, with the Parks Recreation, but I would like to see something to what Councilman Lee said in honor of Jackie, because he did a lot for this community, he did a lot for me. He'll be missed. His funeral was beautiful. I think they really celebrated his life, and he was a good fella. So I just remember the families, they're still going through a loss, but he's in a much better place than where he was before, I can tell you that. But you never heard him complain. What's up, Wood, or what's up, Chubbs, or Mr. Wood, or whatever else, the way he always called me. So I'll miss seeing him on Saturday morning basketball for sure. But anyway, he was a good fella, so I would like to see us try to do something. Any ideas you have, run it by, and we'll try to do something to honor Jackie.
Anyone else?
I would like to just pick up where Sloan left off about the state funding for this year, but also in addition to that, last year we got a lot of money from the state too to help start the CSX project and redo the amphitheater, all of which is money that we didn't have to pay for, which we had talked about the amphitheater a couple of years ago. And thanks to the state, we didn't have to do that.
It's funding for the benefits now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I echo the same as far as the work that our legislators are doing on behalf of Smithfield. Both Larry and Benton both stay in constant communication. You know, they text me and let me know where we're standing, and you know, we've really gotten some good things, and you know, their ability to bring that funding is to our community is something that we've talked about, right? As going out and being able to have those conversations with the legislators and kind of pounding that pavement a little bit, if you will. It's good to know that we have those relationships, and we're starting to actually see some benefits from establishing those relationships. But also, you know, hats off to staff too, right, for going out and seeking those grants and continuing to seek those grants. That's encouraging to know that we continue to receive the grants. As you know, I serve on the Upper Coastal Floor Planning Organization as a director on that organization, and we did submit I brought back to the council and we did submit a grant for the multi-use path between downtown and West Smithfield. And at our last meeting this month, I was informed that we did receive the grant. So, you know, that's encouraging,
Halfway there.
Councilman Barber.
Halfway there.
Halfway there. Hey, baby steps. We will continue to work to figure out how we can seek additional funding and so forth. But it's encouraging to know that we're starting to reap some of the benefits of the things that we have put into place. Working with our folks in state and federal government. So again, hats off to the staff for everything, because I know it takes time to fill out those grant applications and so forth. But as you can see, these are just some of the examples, and we've received, I can't tell you how many we've received over the last couple of years as far as grants that I don't ever remember us receiving in years past. So outstanding job there. Like you said, lots going on this weekend in the town of Smithfield. We've got the Ava Gardner Festival also going on this weekend as well. So just lots and lots going on. So come on out and participate in the activities that are going on. I think we've got movie at the amphitheater. We've got the I love this one because I've been for several years now requesting that we have a fishing pond in Smithfield, and
You know, we were able to do the walking trail at the Eva Ennis Park around that existing pond, and I talked to Gary and so forth about getting that stocked, and we've gotten some plans to do that. But now, the fishing event this weekend, it's put on by the Parks and Recreation, department. I just really like to see those things going on. Like I said, it's just another piece of the puzzle that you often hear me talk about that just makes a great community, right? And this is just another piece of that puzzle. But I'm glad to see that we're finally making, we still have work to do around that pond. We still need to try to clean up some, and I'd love to see some other things there, but it's a start, right? And it's, in my opinion, a great addition, not only to that area of the town, but it's going to be used by everybody in the town of Smithfield, so I just think that's great. We got the drone flying event this weekend, so, try to make it out to the park, the drone park. Again, mentioned the Ava Gardner Festival going on this weekend. We've got the October Fest going on Saturday. Let's see, what else? We got, there's a community awareness event, right, I believe, on Sunday at Smith Collins Park. So just a lot, and just don't forget about trick-or-treating this year. So that's going to be on the 31st. We'll be on the 31st from 5 to 8 p.m. So that's always an exciting time, but also encourage people, parents, and everything to be mindful and watch out for your kids. Make sure that they are properly clothed, or at least with some type of reflective gear or a flashlight or whatever, because we usually have a lot of trick-or-treaters in the town of Smithfield. COB back there shaking his head, right, because he's probably worked it. Well, I know he's worked it. Lots of kids, so I encourage everybody to pay attention that night. Stay off your cell phones. Stay off your cell phones if you're driving. Don't even pick them up if you're driving. Let's focus on the streets. So, but lots going on, and it was somebody mentioned the debate tonight, and it's been a long meeting, but I think it's been a very healthy debate. These are, some people think these are minor issues, but to those businesses and to those people, I can tell you right now it's not a minor issue because it's important to them and it impacts them. So instead of just jumping to a decision, I think it was great that we had the debate, the comments that we had. And hopefully we came up with the right decision. If not, we'll be back here debating it another time, probably in the future. Again, thanks to staff, thanks to this council for everything that you all do. And Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Mayor, just quickly, the reason why Mr. Scott's not here, I don't know if y'all are aware, but his mother fell over the weekend and broke her leg, so he had to go to Reedsville. So that's, if y'all didn't know, that's why he didn't make it tonight.
That's right. Yep. Thank you. I forgot to mention that. Mr. Manager?
I don't have a lot, Mr. Mayor. Seems like most of the high items have been hit. We do have, in your last month's report, the town is working on creating an economic development strategic plan, and the league is helping us with that. We are creating a steering group, and we need a council member to sit on that group. So I'd ask, I'm not sure how we want to do it, but we really need someone to step up. It'll be about 3 or 4 meetings. They'll probably be later in the afternoons. But this is going to help us to identify the things that we need to do both throughout our downtown and throughout our corridor, over where the outlet center is, and all along 301. So anyone who would step up and play that part in that steering committee would be greatly appreciated.
And when do you need this by, Mike? Is that any plan?
Stephen, how close are we to?
I think we'd like to set up a doable in the next week or so.
As far as meetings? Do you guys understand what the request is or what it involves? Do it now?
We need to wait next month, like you were here.
Yeah, fair point.
Verify. I think it's 2 to 3 meetings, I think I read, and it's really kind of setting the overall goals for the plan, vision, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Kind of broad base and just
This is another grant that we're working on to get this done, so.
Yeah, this will be funded by Electricities.
Okay, and then how quickly, I mean, when do we have to put in the grant? When?
Well,
It's being funded by Electricities.
It's already funded.
Okay.
So all we need to do, we're just creating the steering committee now. And in order to set up the meetings for the steering committee, we'll send out a doodle poll, but we gotta know who those members are to send it to. So it would be nice to have a council member as part of that group from the beginning.
Thank you.
You have anybody that would like to participate in that? If not, we can come up, I can get back. If you don't know right now, you want to ask more questions.
I'm fine doing it, but who's to say what may happen in a month?
Well, fair point. All right. If that's the case, then, we'll have to reappoint,
I'll be glad
the
to
board will
be
have
on
to
it, but-
reappoint. Yeah. Yeah, that's, yeah. All right, then why don't I'll point you to it then. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right. All right.
Thanks, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn will serve in that capacity. Okay?
That's all I have.
All right. Okay, I think that is it.
What about?
Do we have something else? We can do that, yeah. I don't think there's a need to do that right now.
It's up to you all. If you want to have a meeting tomorrow, you don't.
You don't want to?
I can't. Yeah. So, but we can figure it out. All right. There's nothing further. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.